Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, and this, of course, is the Mike Graham Show, and I'm in the wrong spot, aren't I? I'm sort of slightly too far over that way. Should I go that way? Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Does that look a bit close into you?
Yeah, it is. I didn't do it. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. That's better, yeah. That's a bit like the parallax view there.
Yeah. How about this one?
We start, you can't get too close. You don't want to get too close.
Doing a Marilyn Horse.
Yeah, that's the Marilyn Horse. I'll go on the side, like that. Anyway, good morning. It's Thursday. It's the 9th of July. We're already to the second week of July, ladies and gentlemen, which seems incredible. And I'm delighted to say it's the return of William Yarwood. Who's
Hi, guys.
Big Willie in the
Big
house.
Willie in the house.
Great to be back.
Normally that would be every Thursday, but you haven't been. How many Thursdays have you missed?
Oh, I've missed 3 in a row.
It feels like more than that.
No, it's been almost a month, mate. It's been almost a month.
Where have you been?
Oh, well, life update. So,
life update for Big Willie.
Life update. So, I was having work done on my flat in southwest London, and I had to move out for 3 weeks. Now, a friend of mine who lives in North London was very happy to have me, but getting to here from that where I was living is quite a trek.
A bit of a
trek. So that's what I have basically been hiding up in North London rather than my usual southwest London.
Yes.
But I am very happy to be back. Although I did come on last Tuesday down the line where I gave quite a vigorous.
You were very animated actually. I thought it was
quite a vigorous.
I didn't realise how much we missed you until we saw you that day.
Quite a vigorous destroying of R&D. R&D. And one thing actually I have to say about that, all the people in the comments who were complaining about me mocking a northern accent, I'm not exactly southern, guys.
No.
I'm not exactly southern.
Right.
So when people say, oh, why are you mocking northerners? So in essence, I'm sort of mocking my own people, our own people. So people who were complaining about I can do one.
That's all right. It's allowed, isn't it?
But yeah, no, I've obviously still been going to work. I was at art conference the other week. I'm coming to CPAC, GB.
Art conference?
Art conference. No, art conference.
What are you doing at an art conference?
No, well, for an art conference, we'll find more girls there. Still live.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no, life's been all right, Mike, but I've certainly missed off Thursday morning.
Would it be permissible to ask what were you having done at the flat?
Oh yeah, my bathroom was being redone.
Oh really?
It's really nice now, mate. It's really nice. I got a walk-in shower and everything, mate.
Wow.
It was really worth it.
Very nice.
But stand on B-days.
You don't stand on them. There's a sign. Right? There's a sign now. When you go to the toilets, please don't stand on the toilet. I wasn't planning on it actually.
So yeah, but otherwise, just been taken along with work at the TPA.
Yeah.
I've been about drinking a little bit too much lately, but there's no such thing. And
It's the hot weather, isn't it?
Oh mate, it's insane. And also, I've been trying to take more of your advice on and sort of not sleeping 9 hours a night. Yeah. I've had 4 hours of sleep today.
That's much more like
because I was out last night drinking and chasing after a girl. So
really,
but yeah, again. Well, mate, it went well. It went well.
This is great stuff. This is terrific because we've actually got.
No, I doubt that, mate.
Yeah, she's still no. What's your most vivid memory is our poll for the day, right? Is it your first kiss, your wedding day, obviously not applicable to you, first Christmas, first holiday? What do you reckon? Your most, we can scratch your wedding day.
Scratch my wedding day.
Yeah, I was on holiday recently. I went to Cyprus.
Oh, yeah.
The Guernsey one.
Oh, the Guernsey holiday. Yeah, so I've got this memory, right? And I don't know whether it's a real memory or whether it's my own kind of, memory as told to me by my parents. But I was very small. There is a picture of me in Guernsey. I was about, 2 or 3. And I've got a shield. What do you call a breastplate on? And I've got a sword and a helmet. It's all made of plastic, obviously, and not a real one. And I just remember falling in the nettles, but I don't. And getting stung like all over because obviously you weren't wearing very many clothes in the summer. But I don't know if I remember that or whether I remember it because I was told that it happened. Do you know what I mean?
That's so interesting. I mean,
do you have a first memory that you can remember?
First memory I can remember. I can remember some stuff when I was in nursery, I think, when I was about 4 or 5 years old. Right. I think my memory sort of disappears before that, really. I mean, like, for example, I grew up in North East Wales, but actually my first few years were spent in Widnes. I grew up in Widnes, in just near Runcorn in Cheshire.
That was in Widnes, wasn't it, for some reason?
And because that's where a lot of my family's from, actually. Right. Another point of I can take the piss out of Northerners because I am one. And I don't really remember living there, which is weird, but because I lived there for like 3 or 4 years, but I just don't. My memory just doesn't compute because I was too.
And if you go back there, it doesn't seem familiar.
Well, I mean, it seems familiar in the sense that my grandparents and cousins and stuff used to live there, so I obviously used to go there when I was younger, but I don't remember actually living in that place. The only place I ever remember living is in North East Wales, where I grew up. I only remember that, so which is weird.
Interesting. All right. Well, so that's the poll for today. So if you want to have a look and see, at the moment, 40% of people are saying their wedding day is their most vivid memory.
Well, you know, I haven't quite got there yet.
Day, but it's not exactly.
You told me about the reception yesterday, Mike. So that was amazing.
The reception was pretty good. Yeah, we got married in New York, and my friend
Who's the lucky fella?
It was that guy from the Guardian Angel. Yeah, he used to walk around, you know, covering his name. Yeah, Curtis Leeberg, very well remembered. Yeah, and I had this mate of mine who lived in a loft in Soho, which was very trendy, and it was just this big space, really huge, where you'd have a bathroom, which was the only thing that wasn't part of the one big space.
Oh, it's like one big room with bed and everything.
Full warehouse and everything.
Oh,
so
right.
there's sort of the bed over there, there's a sort of kitchen over that way, and he was just moving out of it, so it was completely empty. So I said, right, well, we'll have that for the reception.
Oh, right.
I basically hired a couple of caterers, got some tables and chairs brought in.
Nice.
Had a DJ, had a bar set up, and it was great because it was a lot cheaper than hiring any kind of venue.
Yeah.
And there were two sort of parties going on because there was a bar across the street called the Prince Street Bar. Down in Soho, and so half the reception was down there, and the other half was in my place.
That's cool.
And I made a load of money because in America people give you money, right? So I had a 1-bedroom flat. And I thought, I don't need like a 24-piece crockery set, so in case I decide to have dinner for 12 people, right? So I was like, don't give me anything that I can't use and put in the flat. So people just gave me wads of cash.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
so I had literally thousands of dollars, in my
loads
pockets.
of money.
And loads of money.
Yeah, loads of money.
Well, it was the 80s. And so I literally, I think the whole thing cost about 10 grand, but I made 10 grand, so I got 20,000 quid.
That's all right.
Or $20,000 as presents, which is great. We haven't done any news yet. It's 8 minutes past 7. People will be going, why aren't you doing the news? Well, this is the news. According to the papers this morning, there's all kinds of different stories. Front pages. I mean, I haven't really spoken to you since the whole Farage thing.
Yeah, we should probably share.
You got Farage, bin-faced by-election is deadly serious, it says on the front page of the Mail. The Times has got Farage faces new questions over timing of Tycoon's £5 million present. We'll start with that, I suppose. There's been a bit of bombing overnight as well in the Middle East, if you really care about that. And the Prime Minister is promising that there's a bank holiday coming if England wins the World Cup.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, great.
Do you know the worst nightmare of mine now at the moment is, the Starmer's last day is the day of the World Cup final.
No.
Yeah. Oh, is it actually?
So if they win it, he's going to claim it. So they can't. I can't have it.
It was fantastic to leave on the way that England wins.
Yeah, come here.
It's a shame. It's going to become obsolete.
Well, we need a Burnham alert now, which is as good as that. That's the challenge for you guys, is to get a Burnham alert, which is as good as that, because that's brilliant. So, what do you make of all this Farage stuff? And also, a couple of the other papers have got stories about Robert Jenrick, receiving $37,500 from some dodgy character when he was a Tory MP. It's all madness, isn't it? Yeah,
I think for the Farage thing, I think two things can be true at once.
Yeah.
It can be true that yes, he did receive this donation, the £5 million donation, within 12 months of within the 12 month period of him not becoming before he became an MP.
Now that's the question of the date, isn't it?
And according to IPSA rules, you do have to declare that. So Farage didn't declare it, so therefore, by IPSA standards, he is in the wrong here. But then there's the other position of there's also a clear sort of uniparty stitch-up going on here, because I bet a lot of these people are also dodgy and sleazy, and of course they are, but because it's Farage and because he's the biggest threat to them, they're going to use any type of mudslinging they can possibly use.
That's exactly what they are using. They're completely one-sided about it, because I also read, and I haven't followed it up, so I haven't had it officially confirmed, that Farage went to the parliamentary authorities before he took up his seat and said, do I need to declare this? And they said no.
Interesting. Okay, so that just changed the debate entirely, because if he talked, so that implies then that if he's already talked to the Parliamentary Standards Committee about this before he became an MP, then it sort of raises a big question over why all this is happening now. And I think there's an element of, there is a uniparty stitch-up going on. I think that the Lib Dems, the Tories, Lib Dems, Tories, Labour want to get their teeth into reform because I think they can smell a little bit of blood in the
Yes,
water.
right.
Because whether we'd like to admit it or not, or whether your viewers would like to admit it or not, there's been a bit of a slowdown in momentum with reform. I think over the last month or so, there's been a weird slowdown.
Well, ever since the £5 million conversation began, really,
exactly.
Because first of all, Nigel Farage, and we've spoken about this, I think, when you were away. Nigel Farage, as his first reaction was, "I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to answer any questions about it." So he kind of disappeared off the scene for a while. So he wasn't giving any more press conferences, and people started to notice that he wasn't really in sort of front of camera as much as he had been. So that was the first problem. And then he decided that the policy of not mentioning it at all or talking about it wasn't working because it wasn't going away. So then he decided to go and do some interviews at which he didn't answer any questions.
No, exactly.
And then he said, it's none of your business.
I don't think he's handled it particularly well, I have to say. I think what he should have done from the beginning is just be straight up and honest about it. Like, I buy the argument that he's keeping it because he wants to use it for security in the future.
Yeah, totally.
I completely buy that.
And he's not wrong to say that it's not really anybody's business, but unfortunately politics doesn't work like that.
Politics doesn't work like that. And I think the issue is that also, whether it comes to, I mean, you're an old journalist with
Less of the old, please.
Yeah.
Steady.
You're established journalist, seasoned veteran.
Thank you. I don't mind veteran. Veteran's fine.
So you understand how this all works when someone's not answering a question. That makes people want to answer questions more. You understand the doorstepping thing as well. I mean, that's relatively normal practice. But Farage is, as Kemi said the other day, throwing a little bit of a hissy fit over something that happens to quite a lot of other people.
Yes.
And
but on the face of it, though, you can understand why he's very twitchy about that kind of thing, because of some of the stories he's told about, for example, in his own little village in Kent, suddenly being harangued by a mob of people who've turned up in the bar just to give him a hard time and then to surround his car and all that. It doesn't happen to very many other politicians. And so he's, I think, quite rightly twitchy about all that.
No, I get that, and that's why also I think that I buy the argument that he needed that money for security, and I've also learned that while originally the Speaker gave him access to security in the vein that, say, the Prime Minister or Secretaries of State would have, which I think is the correct thing to do, really. I think basically all party leaders should effectively have some level of security, just for their own safety.
Right.
But apparently about 70% of the funding has been withdrawn. Was taken away from them.
And they haven't really properly explained that.
No, they haven't explained why. And I think that Farage, as a character, I mean, he doesn't like having security. He admits this multiple times on TV. He's just like, I can't be left alone for the rest of my life now. He hasn't been on a train for like 20 years.
He can't. I mean, I've known him for a long time, and he can't go anywhere without his security people. He can't even walk down the street because people just take it in turns to just abuse him. Yeah, exactly. Which is ridiculous, really.
So I think that while this is all a bit of a mess, I'm sort of umming and ahhing whether about calling a by-election was the best idea. I predicted it, by the way. We were in the office before it happened, and we all gave our prediction. I said, since it's Farage, he's going to do the biggest, baddest thing, which is call a by-election. And there's a part of me which thinks that's quite gangster of him. But then there's another part of me that thinks, well, okay, but no one else is standing, and we're sort of in David Derry's territory now.
I think reflects more badly on them, and I said this yesterday, rather than it does on him, because it's not his fault that they're not standing.
No,
they're the ones now throwing a hissy fit and throwing their toys out the pram and going, "Oh, we're not going to play with you, and we're going to take our toys and we're going to go home." Well, why? What about the British people? Do they not deserve to be given an opportunity to vote?
Exactly.
So they're kind of snubbing their noses, I think, at the population, saying, we don't care about you. We're just going to try and make him look stupid.
Well, it also is a good way for Farage, actually. Them not standing is probably good for him in a way, because then he can frame it as a sort of the people of Clacton versus the rest of the country kind of thing. And the problem that I sort of have is, obviously, I think Farage will walk it. There's no question about that. Although we can talk about this moron bin face in a minute.
I'm glad you said moron.
I think he's a moron.
Somebody just sent me a message saying they think that he might be somebody who works for the BBC.
Yeah, he is.
Is he?
Yes,
do we know that?
Yeah, we know that. He's
a
sort of
tosser.
He's like some sort of former BBC journalist, and what a friend of mine called him a court jester, basically.
Thinks he's really, really funny.
He's an establishment court jester who basically gives all the centrist dads and morons who watch the BBC still, all three of them.
Why doesn't he just go and join Led by Donkeys and be done with it?
Well, he's very much in that sort of vein of things,
do you think he drinks craft beer?
Yeah, he drinks craft beer. He smokes a pipe. He reads the Guardian. He's on the BBC.
Oh, here we go. His name is John Harvey.
Yeah.
Married father of two, who's worked for the past 7 years as a comedian and scriptwriter. I've never heard of
Yeah.
him. After graduating from Oxford University
what a surprise.
with a degree in classics.
What a surprise.
Super! Come on then, come on down, Mr. Harvey, because you're so funny. Isn't you an oddball? You're so eccentric,
I'm so hilarious, you know.
What a complete wanker. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know.
We've got a clip as well, mate.
Oh,
Have you got a clip? What, of him being a comedian?
Yeah, him on news now. That's it.
Oh, let's have a look.
We know that the Monster Raving Loony Party are running as well. So do you think it's time for a loony bin pact?
I would say, what are we doing here? On a programme which used to construct proper investigative journalism and now is a souped-up podcast, Paddy.
How funny.
I mean, even the voice, you can tell, can't you? He's
I'm from Zebulon 5. It's
yeah,
like all about
I'm really edgy. I am. You
Yeah,
know, I'm
I know.
so edgy. You know, in my streets, you know, which is full of Volvos and electric cars. You know, they all think I'm really funny.
Yeah, they really.
Yeah.
Well, everyone in my classics degree thought I was hilarious.
My kids in private school as well. You know.
Yeah, I
Plank.
think he's
Plank of the week time. I think, isn't it? With campaign face.
a lot. The problem is a lot of these joke candidates are often basically, first of all, left wing to begin with. The second of all, they're all court establishment jesters who don't push the boat or boundaries out there anyway.
Yeah.
And they're funny only to centrist dads and people who think that Frankie Boyle's new show is where he's sort of saying, calling people the C word because of whatever
Frankie
reason.
Boyle, another tosser.
Yeah. Romesh Ramatage as well, that guy as well. He is designed for those kinds of
Nathan,
people.
I think he's
whatever. I can't, it's a bit too early for that.
They're all so middle class.
They
aren't
are so middle class,
painful.
and they're all from the same kind of backgrounds, and they're all and the interesting thing is they all have the same
in a big box and drop it in the river, can you?
And the interesting thing is they all have the exact same political opinions as well.
Yeah.
They all have. You can sort of. I know what all of their political opinions are before even talking to them.
No, you don't have to ask them.
Yeah.
And they all write columns in The Guardian.
Yeah.
That's really empty as well. The Guardian, of course, this morning have gone mad. They've gone, revealed more reform transactions worth millions reported to the crime agency. Now, how do they know that? Because National Crime Agency is leaking all this stuff to The Guardian.
Well, they deny that. They neither confirm nor deny.
No, because nobody who works at the National Crime Agency is in any way a Guardian reader or a lefty civil servant like the rest of the bleeding civil service. You know, it's absolutely outrageous what's going on. You know, because there are actually real important problems in this country that need to be solved. We haven't got a prime minister currently.
No,
we've got old Starmer, the robot, messing about over in Ankara. I kept saying yesterday, Starmer's in Ankara. It's got a funny ring to it. You could make it into a song, couldn't you? Starmer's in Ankara.
Starmer's in Ankara.
Yeah. Starmer's in Ankara. There you go. It's got a good ring to it, hasn't it?
It's got a good ring to it.
He's coming back. Starmer's coming back from Ankara. Good place for him.
Starmer's coming over.
Unfortunately, that's true.
That is true,
But he wasn't here yesterday, so instead we had David Lammy. Right.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Apparently for the last time doing Prime Minister's questions, or Deputy Prime Minister's
Thank
questions,
God.
because the word is that Burnham, when he gets in, which is soon, supposedly, he's going to find another Deputy Prime Minister. It's probably going to be Lucy Powell, because they've suddenly discovered women in the Labour Party. They don't want to be running it, but they don't mind having a number two.
Don't blame them, really.
Yeah, well, steady. So I think have we got a clip of Lammy? We have, haven't we? On Nigel Farage.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member for Clacton used to say... Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member for Clacton used to say, leave means leave. But it seems his latest stunt is to leave this place just so that he can return as a fully fledged member after not just one referendum on his behaviour, Mr. Speaker, but possibly two. So will the Deputy Prime Minister join us in urging the Chancellor to delay the Honourable Member for Clacton's resignation until the investigation is complete, so the good people of Clacton have all the facts before they cast their votes, and failing that, will he support our Clacton clause so that even once the Honourable Member ceases to be an MP, the investigations can continue?
Well, everyone can see that the Reform leader is just trying to distract from the fact that he's up to his neck in sleaze. He's got serious questions to answer and he can't run away from them. Labour isn't going to be part of this circus. I hear it's the people versus the establishment, the city trader, Putin admiring professional politician who's pals with crypto billionaires versus Count Binface. There have been unqualified joke candidates in the past. Let's see what the people of Clacton decide.
I watched that yesterday and I just thought to myself, you are proving exactly what Nigel Farage has been saying, that you're all these pumped up, overprivileged, overpaid, overexpensed members of parliament who are all laughing because you think that this guy who's an outsider, because he is an outsider, is going to crash and burn in a by-election, which he's not going to do.
Yeah. If Nigel wants to do some proper advertising, he should just play that on loop constantly in Clacton, because that is a perfect symbol. It's like you've got like the Lib Dems all laughing with each other, they're laughing with Labour, with the Greens behind them going tee-hee-hee.
And as I kept saying yesterday, I said it yesterday on a little clip that I did, that Ed Davey, calling him the world's biggest grifter or something, right? Who's the guy who claims £320,000 on his Westminster office.
Yeah, shopper.
320,000 a year. Right.
Well, I mean, what does Ed Davey do for on a daily basis?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, he stopped falling into water because we'd like to just keep seeing him doing nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Cheap, probably be cheaper.
Repeatedly, it would be cheaper. Actually,
it'd probably be cheaper.
Absolutely, that's
but
ridiculous.
I think that is I was watching yesterday as well, and I thought, do these people not understand how this looks outside? Well, actually, I think they do understand, but they just don't care.
No.
They just genuinely don't care, and they think that the average member of the public, in some ways, is kind of like them, and sort of they want to be sensible. And they're not extreme and they're not populist.
No.
They're not aligned with Nigel Farage.
Oh no, they're involved in the serious business of politics,
totally,
right?
Yeah,
and look what a bleeding mess
they're adults in the room, of course.
Well, what a bleeding mess they're making of it all. We've got Andy Burnham about to become the Prime Minister without any real experience whatsoever of international affairs, of running big budgets, and people say, "Oh, but he's run Manchester." Yeah, it's got a £1.6 billion deficit.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't even run that efficiently. How's he going to run the defence spending situation?
And no mandate, no plan. No.
He's never done. I don't think he's ever been abroad, has he? I mean, apart from going to visit various other mayors around the world.
Well, he goes to MIPIM every single year to go to that estate agent conference where all these councillors and mayors go and go on the French Riviera and drink champagne on taxpayers' time.
Can you imagine him with Trump?
Yeah,
or any kind of international conference with his little T-shirt on and his kind of eyebrows.
Our Andy goes to NATO.
I'm from North. Where are you from?
Open every arse and good growth in every postcode, and it's just like Mr. Burnham.
Host the first G7 meeting in Salford.
Oh, G7. I thought G stood for gravy.
I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? So here he is on the front of the Times saying he's going to aim defence spending at British firms. Well, he hasn't got any money. So exactly where is he going to? What money is he going to spend?
What money is he talking about?
He's going to pledge to rebuild the country's hard power by ensuring that billions of pounds of additional defence spending is focused on the UK rather than given to American or European companies. Once again, the Times has obviously decided to set out its stall as the spokesperson for the Labour government, as ever, right? Doesn't matter who's in charge; they'll just sing whatever song they're given to sing.
Whatever the establishment tells me to do.
Whatever we've been given from Downing Street, we'll just make that page one. It's easy if you work in the Times as a journalist, right? All you've got to do is get a bit of dirt on Nigel Farage and take a press release from Labour. That's your job.
That's what you need to do.
Brilliant.
And then swan around like you're the most high status individual in all of the world.
Yeah.
I'm a gentleman from the Times.
I think Count Binface is quite funny actually.
Listen to Times Radio any chance.
Maybe do a show on Times Radio, why don't you? Did you say Binface has a show on Times Radio?
The evening show.
As himself, or?
I don't know.
Well, I must admit, when I was there, I never saw Binface in the building because he's quite, you would notice him, wouldn't you, in the lift?
Yeah.
I never saw him in the lift. Who's that? That's just the bloke with a bin on his head.
Yeah.
Okay then.
He's a bit whoopy. He's probably claiming the pip.
He's really funny though. And as funny as Stig Abel. How about this? This is one for you, for the Taxpayers Alliance.
Sure.
200. Now that they're changing all the toilets back from gender neutral
back
to single sex, it says here that it's going to cost 230 million quid. How is it going to cost 230 million quid to put a sign up that says men only, or women only?
This reminds me
World's
of where...
most expensive sign.
This remind. I mean, first of all, they made it out of gold or something, for crying out loud. You think they just get the old sign and just put it back up and and not hire anyone else to do so? You just pick someone in the building who's worked there for a long time and knows where all this. Oh, hello, Janice. Could you know those old signs we got? Oh yeah, could you put them up again? Yeah, cheers.
Oh, here it is. Right, this is a financial impact assessment, right? Estimated by the Equality and Human Rights Commission. Well, that explains everything.
Yeah, there we are.
So the toilets don't have to be made of gold. Right, but you just have to pay loads of people loads of money.
Yeah. No, that's not surprising. But it reminds me, this is not the first.
Literally taking the piss.
Yeah, they're literally taking the piss. Yeah. But this is not the first time something like this has happened. Like where I'm from in Wales, when they were doing obviously all the 20 mile per hour speed zones, and then they relaxed some of the 20 mile per hour speed zone areas. What they ended up doing is they ended up spending loads more money on replacing the 20 mile per hour speed zone signs to what they originally were. But they did essentially just replace them with the old signs, and yet it cost
they actually dug the old signs out of their garage or whatever.
But the issue is that it still cost Welsh taxpayers like upwards of like tens of millions of quid for some magical reason. Yeah. And it's like, well, how on earth? Well, maybe you shouldn't have changed them in the first place to begin with. But also when it comes to the same-sex toilets and the like, watch again in a few years' time when the Supreme Court decides to change its mind about the ruling for whatever reason, and then this money's going to have to be spent again to change them all back into gender-neutral toilets.
This is even better because following Freedom of Information request, the EHRC has now revealed the changes are expected to affect 12,895 toilets, 5,526 changing rooms, and 18,422 signs. Well, how much is a sign, right? It goes right. So the impact on the public sector is going to be 20.6 million, followed by 21 million for the voluntary sector, and 188.6 million for the private sector. Well, why are we paying for that?
Hang on. Why does the voluntary and private sectors need taxpayers' cash to place these signs?
Alongside cleaning and construction costs. So presumably they didn't clean the toilets before when they were gender neutral. That'd be part of the problem.
That'd be part of the problem.
£703 million will also cover staff training, as well as organisations having to update internal policies.
For what? How to sit on a toilet properly? Like, what, are these people not potty trained or something?
Please don't stand on the seats, right? Also, updating internal policies. How does that cost any money?
So
where do they get this rubbish from?
So they're going to need to spend money not just on the public sector but on the private and voluntary sectors, and they need to train people how to use these toilets, and they need to change guidelines, i.e. in a Word document, and that's going to cost us upwards of 300 million quid.
And every sign, instead of just being made from, you could 3D print it like that sign there. Yeah, how much did that cost? What, 3,000 quid? I mean, it doesn't cost any money at all. How the hell are they doing this?
No, and this is a story that can only happen in Great Britain, right? Like, I bet the person who did the impact assessment's like, well, actually, this took a lot of work, and I'm a very, very smart individual. I work for the Equality and Human Rights Commission, so anyway, I've got my working from home day today, so it's completely moronic, but it's not a surprise. But like I said, Mike, wait a few years' time when it all has to be changed back around again because the Supreme Court's decided, actually, sorry guys, trans women are women because
we got that wrong.
You've got that wrong.
Yeah. So you're going to find another 230 million quid. One of the people they could get it from, of course, is Hugh Edwards. According to Samir Shah, who's the chairman of the BBC, he thinks that Hugh Edwards should return the £200,000 that he took as extra money, right?
What a radical position.
But he should only return it if he's got good morals. Because
you've been waiting a long time for that.
Well, he's not obviously going to give it back. I mean, why don't you just go round there and say, "Look, mate, if you don't give us the 200,000 back, we're going to smash up every single thing in the house."
And your legs,
including you.
Well, okay, the BBC just turns into like a mob. Like,
well, that's how you get the money back. You give it to the boys from the East End. You don't send Samir Shah around and go, "Well, if you had any decency, give it back to us." Well, that's not going to happen.
BBC sends a couple of black shirts around his house to beat his legs, to beat his head in.
Absolutely right.
But no, it's so funny this because I remember the former executive director of the BBC was in front of the DCMS committee. I think we at the TPA made a video about it. And I think you shared it on Plank of the Week all the way back in 2024 when you were over at Talk. And it was so funny when one of the MPs said, Hugh Edwards giving his money back, and the executive director said, well, we've asked him to give his money back, and he's like, that's not what I asked you. Has he given his money back? And he went, I don't think so. Something along those lines.
I think the question also then came, well, what were you proposing to do if he doesn't give it back to you?
Nothing.
We're not sure.
But the problem is the BBC doesn't actually have any powers in order to get Hugh Edwards' money back from him. So really, what they should do, if they really want to do it, they should just say to whoever, they should go and talk to whoever banged Hugh Edwards with and be like, oi, give it back. And actually, in reality, give it back to the BBC so that they can give it back to HMRC and give it back to taxpayers effectively, because this wrong-un is still enjoying a relatively comfortable life on the backs of British taxpayers, despite the fact that if he's been, as with all people in public life, if you've been, found to be disreputable, let's say, I don't think you deserve taxpayer-funded salary or a taxpayer-funded pension or a taxpayer-funded expense. Everything off him.
Well, particularly if you commit a criminal act and you're convicted as a paedophile. I mean, I think that's a pretty good reason.
Yeah, pretty good reason.
It off you. I mean, you're not going to be doing that every week, are you?
No.
Well, maybe you are.
Very well, I think that was the problem, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, I got this from Dave. Hugh Edwards, which is why I was laughing. Hugh Edwards has hidden the cash up his arse. Well, he may well have done, but I'm not looking there for it.
No,
that's for sure. So we've got a lot of sort of nothing stories around today. The one that I quite like is on the front of the Sun, which is completely different, just off to the side story. It's one of their kind of weird exclusives. A mum found out she'd won £12 million on the lotto, but the shopkeeper threw the ticket in the bin. That would really grind
that
your
would
gears.
grind my gears.
How's your day going? Her mum took the ticket to be checked at Lundis in Abercynon, is it, South Wales? Abercynon, C-Y-N-O-N, where they said it was not a winner. Kath said, I feel sick. Lottery firm Alwyn is investigating.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, if you went to a corner shop, it's probably an illegal migrant who threw it away anyway. Probably an illegal migrant.
Speaking of illegal migrants, let me show you this. This is an amazing video. This is this came in from, I can't remember, where did it come in from, Charlotte?
It's gone viral on Twitter.
It's gone viral on social media. This is a mother who's driving down the road, sees a migrant taking pictures of children, right, and basically shoos him away.
No, I'm not seeing this.
Well done, Mum. Someone's got to stop him. Well done.
Leave him alone. Do you kids know this man? No. No? Leave him alone.
He just...
Yeah, but leave them alone.
He just said...
I'm going to be parked right there. I'm going to see you.
He said to them, do you want to take a selfie?
No, they don't want to take a selfie. Go away. Leave them alone.
We don't.
It's crazy, in broad daylight.
In broad daylight, just taking pictures of children and asking them if they want a selfie with him. Isn't that awful?
That's awful. It's
Tell
so
Mark to that mother, by
terrible.
the way, for shooing him away.
Jeez,
that's just ridiculous.
That's crazy. I mean,
so maybe in House of Commons they shouldn't be making jokes about Nigel Farage. They shouldn't be laughing. They should be looking to see why people like that are being allowed into this country to molest children.
Because none of their kids live anywhere near an illegal migrant hotel. None of their kids live anywhere near people that would walk up to them and try and take pictures with them who shouldn't be here in the country in the first place. And look, even if he isn't an illegal migrant, even if he's a legal migrant, well, actually, I think that should just disqualify you from being in the country in the first place, and you should be sent back home to wherever you came from.
Well, he's lucky that it wasn't somebody who was maybe a bit more robust that caught him doing that.
He might have his head kicked in.
Hand,
yeah, exactly. I mean, what you've been talking about broadly about the fact there is sort of non-stories. I want to ask you a question. Do you think that because no one is standing as Farage in Clacton, do you think the mainstream media is going to get bored very, very quickly with it?
Well, I think they're going to try. We see the mainstream media's kind of immediate reaction was it's a stupid thing that he's now doing because they're making him look stupid. I disagree.
Okay.
I actually think that Farage is going to make the rest of them look stupid because they haven't decided to take part in what is effectively a proper by-election.
Yeah, it's a proper by-election.
And they're calling it, they're sort of making out that it's not a proper by-election because they're not running in it. And I think they should be made to run in it.
Well,
I think, people talk about making voting compulsory in this country. I think if there's a by-election, every single major party should be forced to stand in it.
Yeah, because, I mean, not everyone in Clacton is a reformer, and surely I bet there's Labour Party.
No, they're literally snubbing their noses at
their own voters in Clacton,
their own voters, and just saying, you're not going to have a chance to vote for us.
Exactly, yeah, sorry. We're going to do it the proper way when the second by-election comes around.
It's only when we declare it to be the right election. I mean, and also, the way that the mainstream media has reacted to this, you can tell. They didn't do any of that when Makerfield suddenly came up. When Andy Burnham suddenly decided, I fancy being Prime Minister. Incredibly undemocratic. I fancy running and kicking Josh Simons out, but I'll promise him a top job in my new administration. That'll be fine. So that's not corrupt, right?
No.
So that's a proper election, but this one isn't. So really?
Yeah, exactly. Politicians don't have the right to decide what is and what is not a proper by-election.
Yeah.
And actually, hilariously, of all people who actually made a good point on this, it was old Justine Greening. Who remembers Justine Greening? She was on LBC. And she effectively said, when she was arguing with some former Labour MP, she was just like, hang on. This is a democratic exercise. You guys don't get to choose whether you're standing in it or not. Why are you not giving people of Clacton a choice in terms of voting for, the Tories, the Lib Dems, Labour, whatever your flavour is? Farage has the complete right, and it's not weird for someone to leave their seat and call a by-election on their own terms. There is countless precedent for it, but because it's Nigel, they're treating it like this is like, oh, this is the first time this has ever happened. Oh, it's completely unprecedented.
But they're proving his point. They're proving the point that he's been ganged up on. That they're all kind of taking any side as long as it's not his side. And even old Rupert Lowe is joining in. And making out, because he had previously said we're going to throw the kitchen sink at any by-election in Clacton. Oh, except for this by-election.
Yeah, exactly.
Which we're not running it.
Well, we haven't even talked since Makerfield about the whole Restore Britain nosedive. I mean, it's Rupert. He's been let out of his attic now by the people who control him. Every time he goes, I like Rupert on a personal level, by the way. I don't have any issues with him, and I think he's great on the Public Accounts Committee. But every time he appears on camera, he seems to just contradict Restore Britain party positions, whatever they may be, because a lot of Restore Britain's base are like hardcore ethno-nationalist, sort of Catholic types. While Rupert Lowe is a Thatcherite.
Christ is king on the Twitter account, right?
Rupert Lowe himself is a sort of like old school Tory Thatcherite and Protestant farmer who is completely out of kilter with the average Restore Britain member. And now he's done a Joe Rogan interview, I believe, where apparently it's just 2 to 3 hours of him saying, being Rupert Lowe, being like he's
and that's about the
Tory.
length of interview you need to do with him, because it takes so long to say everything. 3 hours is about right.
I watched Kelvin interview Rupert, and I thought Kelvin could have been, I think, a bit more aggressive or a bit more pushy with him. I understand why he wasn't. But even then, Rupert multiple times, because you've rudely interrupted me, and I was like, hang on, no, he didn't. No. He was asking you to develop.
For a guy who has been around the politics world and the business world for as long as he has, he's quite thin-skinned, actually.
But also the interesting thing is that in Makerfield, of course, Restore Britain were just a non-entity. Like they didn't split the vote. They didn't cause any trouble.
No. Well, I did Dan Wootton's sort of election night show, and there was lots of Restore Britain types on that, as you can imagine. And they were all saying, we're already getting word that they've got. I said, if they get more than 10% of the vote, that's probably pretty good.
That's quite impressive.
But of course they didn't. They got 6.7% of the vote, which wasn't very impressive at all. But Conor Tomlinson was there, and he said, we've heard from inside the count that they've already got more than 10%. And this was about sort of quarter to 11 or something. And it just turned out not to be true.
Yeah, of course it's not. And also, I'm friends with 1 or 2 people in entire Restore Britain, and I saw one of them at a party a few weeks ago, and I asked them basically how they thought it was all going, and how do you think Makerfield went, and to his credit, he gave a relatively honest answer about it all. And I just said to him, why the hell are loads of your guys, so to speak, both inside the party and online, talking about 20% of the vote, talking about we're going to win it entirely? Like, you need to control your comms here, because you need to...
Because the expectation was before, even as the polls closed, we're going to shake up the national political landscape. Well, not really.
No, not really. Nothing's changed. Right. Nothing's changed. Nobody cares about Restore Britain. And that's the problem at the moment for that lot. I mean, of course, Ben Habib's wrapped up Advance UK. Restore seems
I'm not sure where Ben Habib stands at the moment.
I think he is in Restore Britain, I believe. I think he
I don't know if he is.
Because he was campaigning in Makerfield for the candidate there.
Yeah, but I think there was some kind of issue between him and Rupert. I can't remember, because it's hard to keep up.
He's on with Kelvin this morning. He's coming in.
Oh, Ben Habib, is it?
Yeah, you can ask
Ben
him.
Habib, there you go. He's on with Kelvin.
You can ask
so we
him.
can find out what he's doing.
I think that...
By the way, Kelvin's on today, every Friday, starting tomorrow. Layla Cunningham's going to do a show.
Oh, really?
Next door. So, why are you laughing?
No, just... Well, I mean, it's Layla, so I'll probably just get shouted at the entire way through, which is fine with me.
It's actually quite a fun... We've got a funny clip, haven't we, from last night? Is this from Newsnight?
Yes.
Is it Newsnight? Hannah Spencer was on with it, who is, of course, the Green Party MP, who's completely bonkers mad. Have a look at this.
You know what voters in Clacton really care about?
If you could answer that question, do you think he should tell
Nigel's been very honest. That's it.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
She's just hopeless, isn't she?
I'm sorry. We should ban drinking and but actually, ban drinking for MPs, but they can all do crack cocaine. That's fine with me. Yeah. A line is fine. What's a line between friends?
Yeah, exactly right. Oh, blimey, look at the time. I had no idea.
Oh, Jesus.
The time has flown.
It's nice to be back.
It's been great to have you back. Let's do Yarwood, ladies and gentlemen. Should we do a couple of super chats? Will Geddes is also in the house.
I don't really feel like we've discussed much news either. It feels like we've just been sort of catching up.
There's no news.
There's just nothing going on at the moment.
Your news is more interesting than any of the news here. The fact that you've now got a walk-in shower.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fantastic. Morning, Mike. With the by-election in Clacton, Farage has forced the political establishment to reveal exactly who they are, including Woodward Lowe. Mr. Woodward, I think that's right. And I think his point has been well made. They're not laughing at Farage, they're laughing at us, says Sexy. Yeah, I think that's true. They're making themselves look really, really stupid. Happy Bear says, could Starmer be a Chinese agent? Well, could he? Could imagine Starmer
I don't think he's intelligent enough for that. I don't think he's discreet enough for that.
He's not clever enough. Get Dominic Cummings on to discuss the Farage affair. Orwellian says. Well, it's not easy to get Dominic Cummings to do anything, to be honest.
No.
Did I ever tell you my Dominic Cummings story?
No, go on.
This was right in the middle of the sort of COVID business, I suppose, when he was still in Downing Street. And he'd obviously been listening to my show at some point or other. Anyway, I was sitting down in Sussex one Friday night having a couple of glasses of wine. And I suddenly got this DM from him.
Oh, wow.
Saying, have you got a number or an email you can give me? And I went, yeah. So I gave him it. And he never used it.
That's
and I thought to myself, this is very Dominic Cummings, right? So I was kind of pacing about, going, what's he going to call me? What's he going to do? What's he going to send me? What's he going to tell me? And he never told me anything. And I thought to myself, this is the way the dark arts work, So he gets all these people thinking, Dominic Cummings is going to tell me something really, really cool and interesting.
He doesn't say anything.
And then just doesn't say anything.
Doesn't do anything.
Quite. I mean, I know that's not much of a story.
And then he's writing on a Substack about aliens or something. And
I had this vision of his wife who works for Spectator, whose name escapes me, because we got her on a couple of times. But you just imagine her upstairs in the kitchen. He's sort of down in the basement doing his 45. 1,000-word thread on Twitter going, come on, Dominic, dinner's ready. No, I'm just going to finish this.
They need to know how the civil service is corrupt.
I'm just going to break the civil service open.
Yeah, Dominic, you haven't picked up the kids yet. You've left them there since last Tuesday. It's like...
It's true. Very funny. Binface is apparently a BBC comedian.
Indeed.
Yeah, well, apparently we now know. Was that a Times piece you were showing me before? Or was it
Telegraph?
Telegraph, yeah. So apparently, what's his name? Harvey?
John Harvey.
John Harvey is his name, yeah. I'm just going to start calling him John Harvey.
Yeah.
Count Binface from now on has been banned from here, right? We'll call him John Harvey.
John Harvey, yeah.
John Harvey, the incredibly edgy and funny comedian from the BBC.
Well, if John is a comedian from the BBC, of course, that means he's a taxpayer-funded stooge as well. It means he lives off licence fee money.
Well, indeed. Oh, my God, William, please do a twat Starmer impression for us before you go.
Well, personally, I think that John Harvey is absolutely hilarious. Let me be clear. He is one of the funniest, finest, let me be clear, comedians in Great Britain. And he makes me very proud. Very British, and he represents our British values.
There we are. William Yarwood, ladies and gentlemen.
Back indeed.
Well done. Listen, hopefully back on Thursday next week.
Yes, I'm back now officially. You'll be seeing me every Thursday, and I'll when TPA's got stuff, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah,
we can
please do.
Down the line. Well,
maybe you can have a look into this toilets business.
Yes, I will look into this toilets business.
£230 million worth of taxpayers' money.
Yeah. That's an FOI waiting to happen.
Yeah. Dave says Rupert Lowe was on Joe Rogan. Yeah, we know. Last night, organised by Elon Musk. Mike on Joe Rogan would be great. Yeah, well, I'd be happy to go on Joe Rogan. Do another 3-hour show after this one. Why not? William, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good day.
You too, mate.
It's going to be hot today, I think, because it's Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to some kind of military concert later. Not quite sure. Anyway, Will Geddes is here, so he's going to be coming up next. And we should get some news, should we, with old Edward Hughes?
Hi there, I'm Edward Hughes with your news. The Farage by-election saga rolls on after his midweek resignation drama and donation row. Today's chatter is all about whether this people versus establishment gamble actually pays off or just turns into an expensive one-man show. The clock's ticking on that, Paul. Prince Harry's UK visit continues its awkward streak. Post-court loss fallout, security headaches, and Zero Palace Sleepover keep making headlines as he does his Invictus and Charity Bits solo, Home Sweet Complicated Home. We're still baking in the ongoing heatwave, peak temps today, with amber alerts and everyone pretending this is normal British summer. Starmer's World Cup bank holiday tease lingers in the background for morale. Classic Thursday, old dramas simmering, weather doing its worst, and the nation collectively sighing. Ice cream sales are the real winners. Laters, Tigers.
Welcome back to the Mike Graham Show. I am, of course, Mike Graham, and there's the sign. I think I forgot to do that this morning. The sign is on, which means we are on, and we're here till 10 o'clock. And then Kelvin McKenzie here. We just heard he's got Ben Habib on. So if you want to know what Ben's up to and where he stands on the particular political landscape at the moment, he'll be telling Kelvin McKenzie later at 10. And then tomorrow, as we said, Layla Cunningham does the first of her shows every single Friday from 10 until 12. Mark Littlewood as well. The World Cup is down to the now final 4 games, the quarterfinals, which kick off tonight. I think it's France-Morocco. Also, Wimbledon, right, on the front page today of, and this is a bit weird though, this one for me. Wimbledon's got this new King Arthur, they're calling him, who is, of course, Arthur Ferry, F-E-R-Y, whose parents are both French. He was born in France, but apparently he's British. I can't work that one out either. Will Geddes is here. Very good morning, sir. How does that work, right? Well, I know that we're a bit desperate for tennis players now. And, we've got Emma Raducanu, who's not very British either. But at least I think her dad or her mum is British, I think.
Yeah, they've got a British dog, I think, or a cat.
Got a British dog, yeah.
One of the two.
I think the dad's Romanian or something like that. But anyway, so this guy, I mean, he's a very good player. I watched him the other day and it was great.
We're so desperate, aren't we, for a winner? I mean, it's a bit like when we had Andy Murray.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But at least
Andy Murray, when he loses, he's British, and when he wins,
he loses, he's Scottish.
Oh, yeah.
When he loses, he's Scottish. When he's winning, he's English or British.
I knew it was one way around.
The Queen told Britain's new King Arthur to keep going as he became the first wild card to reach a Wimbledon semi-final in 25 years. Cheered on by royalty for the second time in the Championships, Arthur Ferry delivered an emphatic quarter-final victory. But,
everyone loves an underdog, Mike.
Yeah, but he's French. I mean, I'm sorry to be churlish about this.
Surrender monkey.
Cheese eating surrender monkeys. That was Donald Rumsfeld's line, wasn't it? Speaking of which, I know we're going to speak to Elon Levy actually coming up, but at the moment we're still watching the Middle East with some keen interest because it's the second night in a row that Trump's been bombing the hell out of it.
Yeah, and Iran's been sending their best wishes back as well. I mean, to be honest, it's an absolute mess, Mike. I mean, to be honest, the ceasefire, nobody believed it was going to hold.
No.
This whole issue of opening up, obviously, the ability for Iran to temporarily sell oil and gain some revenue, that was never going to last. They've now withdrawn that offer. Iran's just basically turned around and said, no, we got straight, and they've got the Straits of Hormuz absolutely under their thumb.
Yeah.
So, and that is what is putting the pressure economically onto Trump, because everybody else is turning around and going. And I mean, I think the oil barrel price went up by 8% yesterday.
Yeah, I think so. It was up 4% this morning, I think, already as I was coming in. But I mean, interesting diplomatic manoeuvre by Trump to start calling them all scum. I thought,
standard.
But that's not going to help him keep the prices down. It's not going to help him at home, is it?
No, it's not. And the thing is that there's a lot of money that's being thrown over there in terms of obviously the military effort. And I think the problem that Trump's going to have is with the electorate, they're going to be turning around and just saying, hang on a second, where he was the golden boy for quite a while, this is not going to help his cause whatsoever. And he really bit off more than he could chew. I mean, there was indicators in intelligence from last year which made it very clear that Iran were going to stockpile these Shahid drones, which are probably one of the easiest ways to target their neighbours.
Yeah.
Kuwait's coming in for a proper bashing at the moment as well. I mean, really is coming in for a proper bashing.
We hear that there's American bases and things out there. What exactly is that? Is that part of a permanent scenario or what?
Well, it's a bit of both. So a lot of those military bases, provide sort of support to the allies and to the neighbours. The second thing, it allows them to have forming up positions, a bit like Diego Garcia being such a key location in the islands.
Right.
These sort of locations are very good for refueling, for stockpiling munitions, for personnel to be sort of housed temporarily until they deploy into targets. It's
Right.
good for QRFs, quick reaction forces. It's good for special forces. All sorts of things like that. So to target those locations starts disarming America's ability to basically have those staging points.
Right.
You know, in the same way as Keir Starmer stopping the US using the UK as a refueling point and a staging point as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
that wasn't going to help, and that would
another
come back and bite
brilliant
us.
decision by our former Prime Minister.
Yeah.
I wish he would stop calling himself the Prime Minister, and I wish he would stop going and doing things
Well,
as
he's
if he
retired
is
now,
still
isn't
the
he?
Prime Minister. He's resigned.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that he's out in Ankara, as we were saying earlier,
Keir
Starmer's in Ankara, which is
Very good.
our favourite song.
Very good.
I mean, basically, he's running around as if he's still got some kind of leverage and power, which he doesn't.
Yeah, a bit like Prince Harry.
Oh yes, let's talk about Harry. I see this morning that he was within about sort of half a mile of King Charles. But he didn't actually see him or meet him. And also, interestingly, a piece in the front of the Telegraph saying that just before the trial started, that he lost the £50 million trial with Associated Newspapers, there was an attempt to settle it from his side, right? So he obviously...
I knew about this last weekend.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I knew about this last weekend.
I mean, it's a fascinating situation because he's now in Stuck, basically. We were talking to Kinsey Schofield yesterday, and she was like, she doesn't now think Meghan's going to come over.
I don't
because
think
she
so.
doesn't like a loser, basically.
She hates a loser.
And he's a massive loser now because she must have been on the phone. Can you imagine she's on the phone to him going, what have you done with all the money, Harry? You know, I've given it all to the lawyers. Where's my money? I haven't got any left. They've got it all. You know, told Sherborne, you know, the guy who's the Silk, who has absolutely bought himself about 3 new houses as a result of this
easily.
Harry case,
I mean, it's good money being a KC.
And you can imagine him saying to Harry, we don't want to settle it. You know, we must go to trial because that'll be about £4,000 a day for me.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you and I both know the only people who ever win in legal cases is the lawyers.
Yes.
You know, they make an absolute fortune. And I've been attached conveniently and less conveniently to a number of sort of high-profile litigations.
Yeah.
And these things will go on
But isn't
and
it
on
funny
and
that all
on.
97 allegations that he made and the others in the sort of the joint case made and the hacked off people made were all just chucked into the bin by the judge? He didn't believe in one of them.
No.
Not one of them.
And you know what he's done? He's done really, really badly to himself. Is he's now built up the ire of all the tabloids, especially the Mail, and they are going full guns for him now. They're literally going to start attacking him because, to be honest, like you said, I mean, all joking aside, 50 million on his legal fees. How much do they still have in their pockets to finance these kind of ego ventures?
Well, I don't think very much because even if you consider that he was given or left 30 million from his mother's sort of trust.
Oh, they've spanked that already.
They probably spent all of that.
Yeah.
They may have made a few million from Netflix, possibly. But I mean, there's not much left there in terms of goodwill and in terms of any more money being offered to them. Because,
that's the thing.
They're not a success, frankly.
How are they going to generate any further revenue? Because I mean, they've lost Netflix, they've lost the podcast. Her as if whatever products are not
she's
selling.
claiming
They're
that she
stockpiling.
sold millions and millions of pounds worth of jam. I'm not buying that.
No, and from what I've heard from my sources, it's there's a lot of warehouses sat with a lot of jam.
I would imagine so.
It's fruit spread, not jam.
Oh, sorry, correction.
Fruit spread.
Yeah, we're not allowed to call it jam because it doesn't have as much sugar in it or something. So it's fruit spread.
Does it?
Fruit spread.
Is that with extra sprinkles?
Yeah, extra sprinkles. Yeah.
And
you're going to be eating a lot of that because he's not going to be able to afford anything else. You know, what's for dinner? Fruit spread.
Actually, maybe they'll come out with a special diet. They'll say, right, it's
fruit spread.
It's fruit spread and sprinkles diet
on Monday.
There
fruit spread. What can you tell me about the National Crime Agency? Because there's a lot of stories going around at the moment suggesting that there's leaks from the National Crime Agency to the Guardian, with all sorts of internal kind of memos and investigations that they're doing into reform and into not just Nigel Farage's dealings, but also Richard Tice's dealings, a whole bunch of others. I don't really know much about the National Crime Agency. Who runs that?
So the National Crime Agency, I think it's still Lynn who runs it. She's now the head. I know a former deputy head of the NCA who's a good personal friend, lovely guy.
I mean, whose auspices does it come under? Is it Home Office?
Yeah, it's basically our equivalent of the FBI.
Okay.
So it's our sort of central, really highly organised federal sort of law enforcement agency that do some amazing work, Mike. I mean, we to be honest, they're more constantly getting great successes. People trafficking, certainly organised crime groups. They do the serious sharp end criminality. Now, if there's a leak coming from there, it happens, Mike. We know that. You know that from your previous tabloid days. I know that from the security side.
Yes.
That,
but it takes on a slightly different...
There are leaks, but when it comes to someone like Nigel Farage, the problem is whoever's leaking, it's probably going to be pretty easy to find out who.
Yeah, because my issue with it would be this, not that, you know, civil servants don't occasionally leak stories to newspapers and you know, broadcasting
usually that's
outlets
deliberate
and
anyway.
And all of that, but if it's an anti-Farage thing or an anti-reform thing, it starts to look a bit more sinister, it seems to me, because that would then be more likely to be sort of orchestrated by people who don't like reform or who are, you know, non-aligned with their views, shall we say?
Yeah, inevitably. I mean, as impartial and as neutral politically as an agency like the NCA has to be, inevitably there are going to be people inside that organisation that will have their own personal political leanings. And that inevitably, again, using inevitable, I'm going to stop using that, there's evidently...
As long as you don't say, it'll be interesting to see. That's one of mine.
Or at the end of the day, I hate that one.
No, but there's a guy, there's a particular guy that I'm forced to listen to in the morning when I'm driving in, just because there's not much else to listen to, who says it and funnily enough, he's obviously been told by his producer, stop saying it'll be interesting to see, right? So the other day, instead of saying that, he said, it'll be intriguing to see. That's not any different, you complete wally. Right? You know, try and come up with something else. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, it will be. Yeah, you're a journalist. You're supposed to be finding out what happens.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of this information leak, I've dealt with quite a few leaks on some fairly prominent cases. And one of the hardest parts is attributing who is the source. And there are, I think, one of the biggest problems that Nigel and Reform have is that there's always potentially going to be someone inside the organisation themselves. The insider threat is really quite critical, and it's looking at who might be peed off with how they're being treated, whether they have a personal grievance for whatever reason, that sometimes those leaks can really come in. I dealt with one prominent person in the public eye who was having leaks to, again, The Guardian. And The Guardian are pretty good at cultivating sources within the camps of various different places. So whether this actually comes from the NCA, I'd be interested to see what evidence they have to link it to the NCA. Because the NCA will not take that well, because obviously they have pretty damn good integrity.
Well, certainly the view inside of Reform is that there's been some very confidential information which has somehow found its way into the public domain, which should never have done that, if you like. You know, that there are things being investigated by the police which should never have found their way outside of that police environment. You know, that somehow, you know, they're claiming that I think his bank account details and Richard Tice's bank account details were somehow hacked into and somehow made public, you know, so there's a lot of that sort of dark.
So what, in terms of statements or the actual, just the details? I mean, was this about their financial...
I mean, like this morning, for example, they've got Robert Jenrick on the front page of the I newspaper, I think it is, being investigated supposedly by the NCA for a £37,500 donation from some character who may or may not have been done for fraud. And a foreign billionaire of some kind, you know. So it's all of that kind of what you might describe as, if Jenrick says he hasn't heard from the police, so he doesn't know whether they're investigating it or not. But, you know, there's only one way that could have got out, and that's if somebody leaked it.
Yeah, and as someone who would have access to it, I would have thought that the newspaper's lawyers, and again, Mike, you know this better than me, from certainly with your history, the newspaper lawyers, the editor would be so careful post-Levinson to actually go, you know what, we're happy to post this as admissible information. I mean, I know back in the day, dark arts within our field and within, you know, certain other fields was prolific, and people, you could, in theory, get hold, allegedly, of people's bank account statements, their phone statements, all this sort of good stuff. Yes, you'd be paying a premium for it, but you could potentially get hold of it. But when someone had it, you know, that was intelligence, not evidence, because if it was, say, a high-profile divorce, and I was representing the husband, and the wife found out that the husband snuck money away into various different offshore accounts, and she'd used an investigator to actually access his bank accounts to find out where that money was and where it was located and how much there was. that would be inadmissible. And if she got caught with that, she'd go to prison. Simple as, you know. And
because that was what was known as blagging, wasn't it? Basically,
well, yeah, there was the blagging. So, yeah, I mean, we could do a whole show about the dark arts and how that all used to work.
Yeah, maybe we will.
Or maybe on my own show.
Oh, you could have your own show. Yeah, absolutely right. Well, don't
vote in the chat, guys. Vote in the chat.
Yeah, it's in the pipeline, no question. Now, are you going to hang around?
I will for a little bit, and then I have to see our mutual friend who's taking you to a military concert tonight.
Indeed, yeah. I don't know what that's like. I mean,
it should be great fun, mate.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know which band it's going to be, what they're going to be playing, where it's going to be.
Well,
if it's the Albert Hall, you're just down the road
I don't
from
want to
me.
give away
Give me a shout.
the details,
yeah,
because I don't really know any. But that's basically.
Shall I find out for you, Mike?
No, I quite like a surprise. I do. But I'm going to ask you this, because this is our poll today. What is your most vivid memory? This will be difficult for you, actually, because your wedding day. Which one? Right?
Which one?
First kiss, first Christmas, first holiday. What do you reckon?
Wow.
Or it could be anything that's not on that list.
First vivid memory. Yeah, I'm not sure I want to repeat this one. I have to think of another one.
Yeah, you could come up with a fake one if you want.
First vivid memory. What's
the name
I don't know,
for that?
Mike.
It's sort of fake memory syndrome. There's a syndrome, isn't it? False memory syndrome.
False
right. When you
memories.
remember something that never happened.
I can't recall, sir.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't honestly recall.
Was my memory, says Tommy. See, divorce day. I don't remember a particular day.
Yeah, I'm rubbish with these sort of questions.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to be invited to do this reality show in Australia.
Oh, yes.
I won't say which show it is, but it was quite amusing. I'd have to work out because there'd be a lot of the show without my shirt on. But they'd said the theme is redemption, Will. And
redemption?
Yeah, and they said, is there anything you feel redemption for? And I said, I'm probably not great for your show because I don't regret anything I've done.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
So are you supposed to be looking for redemption? Is that the thing?
I should be feeling, that I need redemption.
Oh, I see.
For whatever.
So you have to admit to have done something wrong then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and like I'm going to do that.
Yeah, no chance. Forget about it. Anyway, at the moment, your first wedding day, your wedding day is apparently winning at 36%, 25% first holiday, 27% first kiss, 12% first Christmas. How about last Christmas?
I think my first family pet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, was a small poodle.
Yeah.
It was called Crumpet.
Crumpet's a good name.
And it was a little white poodle. And I remember one vivid memory was us returning to the house. We'd been out for the day. It's my mum and me and my sisters. And basically the door was rammed open.
Yeah.
Muppet standing there, defiant. And apparently, obviously, someone had tried to break in.
Yeah.
Muppet had seen them off. Crumpet had seen them off.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, Muppet was the name of a Westie I had.
Yeah, okay.
Muppet.
Yeah.
Muppet's good.
Yeah.
That's a good name. That. Yeah. Crumpet's a nice name as well.
Crumpet was good.
Anyway, well, listen, good. If you're hanging around, good to see you. We'll see you in a minute because we've got to get some news in, first of all, with Edward Hughes. And then Elon Levy's here, former spokesperson for the Israeli government. And we'll find out from him what they're saying in that part of the world over these bombing raids, both from the US into Iran and from Iran out to Bahrain and other places in the Gulf. We'll talk about that coming up after the news.
Hey there, I'm Edward Hughes with your news. The Farage by-election saga rolls on after his midweek resignation drama and donation row. Today's chatter is all about whether this people versus establishment gamble actually pays off or just turns into an expensive one-man show. The clock's ticking on that, Paul. Prince Harry's UK visit continues its awkward streak. Post-court loss fallout, security headaches, and Zero Palace sleepover keep making headlines as he does his Invictus and Charity bits solo. Home, sweet, complicated home. We're still baking in the ongoing heatwave, peak temps today, with amber alerts and everyone pretending this is normal British summer. Starmer's World Cup bank holiday tease lingers in the background for morale. Classic Thursday, old dramas simmering, weather doing its worst, and the nation collectively sighing. Ice cream sales are the real winners. Laters, Tiger.
Welcome back. It's coming up to just after 4 minutes past 8 in the morning. We're here, of course, until 10 o'clock, followed by Kelvin McKenzie, who's got Ben Habib on today, amongst many of his other guests as well. And then Mark Littlewood will be here as well with his look ahead to the first of the quarterfinals in the World Cupper show coming up at midday. Right now, let's talk to Elon Levy, who's with us from Israel, I think. Elon, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, good to see you. Been a while. There we were thinking there'd been a ceasefire approved, but of course, not only is it now no longer approved, it doesn't appear to be holding at all. What's it like where you are? What's happening?
Yeah, the United States achieved a ceasefire with Iran with an MOU that was a complete disaster, and everyone warned it was a complete disaster, and it was such a complete disaster that it collapsed.
Right.
It happened because J.D. Vance thought the Iranian regime were rational people you could do business with, and President Trump has come around to the conclusion that they're in fact cuckoo, sick, completely insane, very violent, vicious people, and you can't talk to them. He was asked what changed in the last month. He said, I got to know them. This is a regime that has not given up its ambition of nuclear weapons, that is hell-bent on holding the whole global economy hostage, charging tolls through the Strait of Hormuz so that it can keep extorting the West for more and more concessions. And President Trump's patience has snapped. I don't know whether he wants to go back to a full-scale war, but he understood the Iranians were stringing him along. They wanted to stretch these negotiations out forever without reaching a conclusion. And that threat has to be dealt with. You cannot allow a regime that is holding massive parades, chanting revenge, 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 with people calling for your head, literally calling for the killing of Donald Trump on the streets of Tehran, and let them continue humiliating you in negotiations like that.
Well, indeed. And I was talking to Ariel Whitman a couple of weeks ago. He was here in London, podcaster you probably know. And he was saying a lot of people in Israel feel that Trump has kind of appeased Iran too much in the past and has allowed them to kind of, build back up, if you like, with the ability to fire drones and other weapons into Bahrain and into Kuwait as well, possibly, and other parts of the Gulf. So, I mean, do you think this is going to change his approach then?
Trump was the only world leader who really stood up to Iran while everyone else was trying to appease it. It was really disappointing that the Iranian regime declared war on the whole global economy. Yeah. All of America's NATO allies instead of trying to force it open.
Oh, we seem to be frozen. Can we try and get him back on a slightly better line, maybe?
Yeah. Oil immediately. It gave oil waivers so they could sell oil immediately. It promised full sanctions relief, and it was really astonishing. And I think President Trump understands now what should have been obvious a month ago, is that you cannot appease the Iranian regime. This is a fanatical, fundamentalist, apocalyptic regime that wants to impoverish its own people in order to bring death to everyone. You cannot negotiate with these people, and they speak only the language of force.
And what about the strange story from a couple of days ago where one of their leaders, who everyone assumed had been killed at the beginning of the war, was suddenly appeared on the streets to help mourn the death of the Ayatollah?
Not sure which leader you're talking about, but the one leader people are saying is alive and didn't show up at the funeral was, of course, the son of the deceased, the new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. No one has seen him. And it's quite possible that he's dead and the IRGC is pretending he's alive in order to keep a facade on their power. It's also possible that he's crippled, horribly disfigured. But the fact the Iranians cannot bring out their own leader, the son of the deceased, to the funeral is a sign of weakness and distress of the Iranian regime, even though they're trying to project strength to intimidate the rest of the world.
And what's the Israelis' position at this point? Because would Netanyahu be now trying to talk to Trump about some kind of action, a military action, a different military action from the ones that they've been trying?
Israel's priority, like the rest of the Middle East, is to see the elimination of the Iranian triple threat, the Iranian nuclear weapons program, the ballistic missiles, and the proxy armies. Nuclear weapons, of course, the most important issue. You cannot leave hundreds of kilos of enriched uranium in Iran because it's a short hop to getting that turned into a nuclear bomb. But you also can't get a deal on the nuclear that gives Iran billions of dollars to pour back into the ballistic missiles and the proxy armies that are going to destabilize the region. You have to deal with everything as a comprehensive whole. And I think that's what other Middle Eastern countries, including the ones that have been attacked overnight by the Iranian regime, are also concerned about. They don't want to be looking over their shoulder at an Iranian regime that is charging tolls in the Strait of Hormuz because it feels it has a carte blanche to be the regional bully. They want this regime that fired at its hotels and ports to be put back in its box and ultimately brought down. And I think in Israel there's an understanding the only way there will be lasting peace in the Middle East is if the Iranian regime is brought down, because that's the only source of the conflict here. The Iranian regime wants death to America, death to Israel, and they can't be allowed to achieve that.
And the problem, I suppose, is, though, that bombing them doesn't seem to be enough in terms of actually getting rid of the regime. They seem to have survived all of the various attacks that America's made on them. So does there have to be a different strategy now?
Any strategy to bring down the regime is going to have to involve a great deal of internal sabotage. It's going to mean prioritizing keeping the internet on for the Iranian people so they can communicate and they can bring down the regime. No one is going to topple the dictators using planes from the sky. It's the Iranian people who are going to have to take matters into their own hands. And the world's priority now needs to be that the Iranian people who are calling out for democracy and freedom and human rights, that they should be able to bring down the regime that wants to condemn them to war and war and war again so they can continue waging jihad against the whole world.
Yeah, it's a terribly depressing situation. What's your guess as to what happens in the next sort of week or two?
Look, there's a possibility that Trump returns to a full-scale war, but the timetable of the midterms hasn't changed and he doesn't want a full-term resumption. I think it's difficult to see a full return to war before the midterms in America. I think what's likely is that we end up with the United States. It's already declared that the ceasefire is over, going back to an aggressive blockade of Iran, specific strikes, but leaving it at a low level of intensity rather than a full-scale campaign, at least for now.
Yeah, absolutely. Elon, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Elon Levy there, reporting into us from Israel, where resumption of hostilities seems to have happened. And Donald Trump is now referring to the Iranians as scum, which is probably not the best sign for a peace deal, is it? We've got much more to do. Jamie Jenkins coming up in a little while. Also, Catherine Porter is going to be talking to us about the whole situation with the net zero maniacs in Ed Miliband and whether the chances are that he is actually going to get in to an Andy Burnham government as Chancellor of the Exchequer. And Piers Corbyn is going to be joining us as well, who apparently wants to run in the Clacton by-election against Nigel Farage. We'll find out what that's all about coming up in a little while. Right now, though, we've got Marilyn Hawes, I think. Marilyn, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Here we go. And just as well I haven't got a hangover, because it would make me feel really ill with the way you move around like that.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. We'll see if we can keep still for a minute. I don't know whether you were watching...
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know whether you were watching the show earlier on in the first hour. We played out a video, which I think I'll play it out again in case you didn't see it. Have a look at this. This is the mother shooing away, effectively, a migrant who was taking pictures of kids. Have a look.
Well done, Mum. Someone's got to stop him. Well done.
Leave him alone. Do you kids know this man?
No.
No? Leave him alone.
He just...
Yeah, but leave them alone.
He just said...
I'm going to be parked right there. I'm going to see you.
He said
Leave him alone.
he said to them, do you want to take a selfie?
No, they don't want to take a selfie. Go away. Leave him alone.
We don't.
I mean, it's quite shocking, that, isn't it? Brazen, in broad daylight, a guy, a fully grown man, just taking pictures randomly of kids and asking if they want to have a selfie with them. It's just extraordinary, isn't it?
There was another guy yesterday who, another lady who had a real go at one of them, and she...
well, I'm glad they're doing it.
That's not me. That's not me. The daughter had said... a little girl that he was literally grabbing his private parts right in front of her, and she was only 10 years old, and the mother went absolutely ballistic, quite rightly so, and that was it. But you know what, I was also I'd like to do the thing about the first memory. Also was my first, my puppy dog when I was 5.
You did what, sorry?
The poll on what was your first memory.
Yes.
So mine was my first pet as well, my puppy dog, little puppy boxer, when I was 5 years old for my 5th birthday, and lovely. But going on to more...
What was his name?
Her name, Pixie.
Pixie. Oh, that's a nice name for a dog.
Yes.
Lovely.
And quite, the love of my life. You know. Then I found boys. But what I wanted to talk about this morning is, so we don't run out of time, is liability Lammy. He's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't he?
He really is. He's hopeless, isn't he? Absolutely hopeless. I mean, that was apparently the last time we're going to see him at the dispatch box as the Deputy Prime Minister, we think. Hopefully that would be a good thing.
Yeah, but I mean, one wonders if he ever took any sort of like judicial exams or law exams. He's such a numpty. But how he can stand there, this is what's really irritated me, how he can stand there and say, I am not apologising. for letting out violent offenders because the prisons are full. I'm not apologising. Well, you damn well should.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the things he said yesterday, right, was that, you know, we're going to build more prisons, you know, by 2031, we're going to have 14,000 more spaces. And I'm like, hang on a minute. One, that's 5 years from now. Two, if you want to find 14,000 spaces, you know, why don't you just get rid of all the foreign prisoners you've currently got in prison, and then you've got not far off 14,000 spaces right now.
Well, that's the best way to do it, because I know other people have said, chuck out the people like, you know, and rightly so. Why do we put people in prison like Lucy Connolly? Why do we put people in prison who haven't paid their council tax or their TV licence? It's bonkers. But the thing is, what I'd like to know is, where is the logjam? Because you have 4 category prisons. You've got category A, where the most violent offenders go, right? Wakefield being a classic one. That's where Ian Huntley was murdered. That's where Jamie Varley, the scrote who killed the baby Preston, who was terrified won't come out of his cell. You know, karma is a wonderful thing. And Vikram, the one that so brutally murdered Henry Novak. I mean, I would like to know, where is the logjam? Where can't they put? If the category A's are full, you can't really convert a category D prison, because those are people that are not at all a risk to the public. But they have lied, have they not? Because when this came out, they were going to give people early release. They categorically said, we will not be releasing people who are violent offenders, sex offenders, or rapists, or paedophiles. And it's exactly what they're doing. There must be other kinds of rapists, not rapists, violent offenders, whatever, but you have a duty of care to the public.
Yes.
The public safety.
Well, I think he also said, and I think we've got the clip actually, because he was asked this by James Cleverly, that he wouldn't apologise to the victims either. Let's have a look at this clip. Yeah, let's have a look at it.
Will he apologise to the victims of the rapists, sexual predators and paedophiles that he is planning to release early? Mr. Speaker, he makes a joke about the use of figures. Let me give him a figure. 50,000 prisoners released early in just 2 years on his watch. And I am genuinely shocked. Mr. Speaker, that when given the opportunity to apologise to victims, he very publicly failed to do so. And let me remind him what this is about. Let me quote Fiona Goddard, herself a victim of grooming gangs, who has been brave and open about how his policy will impact her. And she says, finding out that they may be released early has completely set me back. I have barely left the house. I feel constantly anxious, frightened, and unsafe. I can barely sleep. This is the impact his policy is having on victims. He refuses to apologise. But why is he pursuing a policy which he must know is both wrong and dangerous? Mr. Speaker, he talks about 10,000 early release over 14 years of Conservative government. They have released 50...
Yeah, don't worry. Sorry about that. We couldn't get Lammy there for some reason. Somebody's obviously got a Lammy, an anti-Lammy device where you can just rush through everything that he says so you can't see what he's saying. But basically... Yeah, but basically he won't apologise and he won't justify the policy either.
No, it's dreadful. I mean, it's Fiona Goddard's birthday today, and she said, "I can't enjoy it." I mean, it's dreadful. I mean, I just don't understand how he can't apologise. I mean, that is just because he can't be wrong or whatever. It's criminal actually.
Yeah.
If you're going to release people, violent offenders, paedophiles into society, it's criminal, I think, because you're not taking care of public safety. So, I mean, the man's a complete numpty. But moving on also to Shabir Ahmed, yes, the charming man who they don't feel that they can deport. I mean, here's the thing: why don't they just drop him off, fly over Pakistan, parachute him in.
Yeah, I know. You would think, I mean, apparently there's a piece on the front of the Telegraph today saying that he is going to be deported. So I think they have found a way to do it. But whether or not it actually happens is another matter.
Well, Shabana Mahmood is now so proud of herself, patting herself on the back, that she thinks she's now found a way of doing it. But, why don't they just threaten to withdraw the foreign aid? We give them millions of pounds. Just say, look, if you're not going to have him back, then we'll take the foreign aid away. Why can't we do that? I mean, Baroness Casey, she's absolutely adamant that he has got to be deported and it has to be ASAP. But, if nobody wants him, they don't want him, not unsurprisingly, and they don't want other scrotes to go back there either. I'm not being funny. I'm not a violent woman, but this sort of crime really makes me feel awful. I really do think with the nature of the crimes we are getting now, for the vile people and the violent people we're allowing into this country, I honestly think there's a reason to start discussing the death penalty.
Well, I think there are those who would have a referendum on it. Certainly Rupert Lowe said that he would have a referendum on it if they ever got into power.
I think so, because this is not going back to... I remember when the death penalty was a little girl, and the death penalty was... There was the last person, Ruth, somebody wasn't there, that was killed. But society's changed so much. We're letting all these people in that are doing the most disgusting, heinous crimes. And, I think that there is a reason to say we might have to do it. I mean, America does it.
I mean, the funny thing is as you say that, I saw a story in the Mail today about Ruth Ellis, who was, I think, certainly the last woman who was hanged. She's going to be pardoned 71 years on. I mean, it's a bit late, really, isn't it? Well, presumably because they're going to say that there was no proof that she actually committed the crime that they hanged her for, or they're going to say that even though she did commit the crime, there was a good enough reason for it, so therefore she shouldn't have been hanged for it. I mean, I don't know, basically. But apparently David Lammy is involved, and he says that she was a victim. She was a victim of domestic abuse, so that's all right then, because she apparently, famously, she shot her partner. Or her husband outside a pub in Southampton in London, and there's still bullet holes in the wall of the pub, which is quite interesting. But the problem with the death penalty for me is that this country is run by the most useless government of all time. Do you really trust them to put to death the right people? I'm not sure you do.
Of course, that exactly is the problem, and I still don't see why we can't, because most of these people that are in these high security prisons, in the Category A prisons, are of a certain ethnicity, and I suspect he's run out of spaces there. Yeah. And because, as I say, chucking out people from a Category D, Category C prison isn't going to solve anything. There is Camp Hill Prison on the Isle of Wight that is solid stone, that is empty. Why can't they rework that and put some of them in there? It's for the high security ones. It's
well, the fact is we haven't got enough space in the prisons, and no government for the past, I don't know how long, 20 odd years, has actually built any, and I don't know why. It's quite simple. Just build some bleeding prisons.
Exactly, and the Category A ones, because that's where the real problem sits. You cannot have these people, like that video showed earlier, that guy should be banged up for what he was doing. I mean, he doesn't look even ashamed, does he? It's like, it's in broad daylight. They don't care. Why should those little girls that were like really upset, why should children going to school be so traumatized by people like this? A little girl where the guy was nearly jerking off in front of her, 10 years old, and telling her mummy, oh, by golly, I mean, she gave him both barrels.
Yeah, good. Well, thank goodness for these brave women who are doing it, because if they ever came across any men who would be a lot less forgiving, I suspect, if you know what I mean. It's unbelievable. We spoke just the other day to a guy from Crowborough Shield, where he was showing me pictures of these guys just sitting around in the town, drinking cans of beer, getting drunk, wandering about, doing whatever they like. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's thousands of them down in Heathrow Airport area. We've talked about this before, I think, where all the big hotels, and they're doing just the same. It's a Cherry Lane primary school, and they sit out there and they've ripped down the mesh so that they can see into the playgrounds. They're smoking sheesh pipes and all of that. They shouldn't be here. What is the point of us using a passport? Why should we use our passports when these people don't? I mean, it's bonkers. Just turn them around and send them back on the next boat or whatever, and stuff the human rights laws. What about our human rights? What about the human rights of little children who are traumatized by this? Something they won't forget. It's horrible.
It is. You're absolutely right. Listen, Marilyn, you're on fire this morning, so good to see you. Thank you very much. Go on.
No, I'm sorry, I am on fire. I'm going to come back. I'm going to get in there so I can have a good laugh at Plonk again. But this sort of thing really just winds me up.
Oh, I know. It does. Absolutely right. It does. Good to see you, though, Marilyn. Thank you very much indeed. Marilyn Hawes there being very, very vociferous about the whole idea of these characters. I mean, that video today that we're showing on the programme about the migrant who's standing around with a bunch of very small children, by the way, taking their pictures and asking them if they want selfies with him before a mother turns up in a car and basically shoos him away and gets him to go. I mean, shocking, absolutely shocking. I mean, what are the police doing? Why are the police not, protecting those children? Why are they not patrolling those areas if that's what's going on? Because they should be told that it's going on and they should be putting a stop to it. And they should be arresting the bloke and kicking him out of the country, quite frankly. It's as simple as that. This is, of course, the Mike Graham Show. We've got the poll going on at the moment. What is your most vivid memory? The first kiss, your wedding day, your first Christmas, or your first holiday? At the moment, your wedding day is coming up tops with 36%. But do keep that coming. First date, meeting the love of my life, says Sarah. Oh, that's nice. That's a lovely story. It's nice to get those kind of stories in amongst all of the dreadful news that we've got coming your way at the moment. Have you got any more super chats you want to show me before we talk to... I think we've got Jamie Jenkins, haven't we? Mike.
Chris Williamson next.
This one is from Keith, who says, Mike, Cummings only wanted your details for a window into your details to pass on to security services. That's why he's not contacted you back. Well, that's possible, I suppose. But sadly, I haven't got too many secrets that they would find very interesting, I don't think. I don't think I have, anyway. The whole world is British, apparently, says Mark. Yeah, well, apparently, according to Michael Gove, anybody can be British. You just have to turn up and say, I'm British. Is that how it works? Yes. Anyway, Jamie Jenkins is here, is he?
Chris next and then Jamie Jenkins.
Oh, sorry. Who's this?
Chris Williamson next.
Oh, Chris Williamson. All right. Chris, very good morning to you.
Morning, how are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. Something half your head's missing for some reason. I'm not quite sure how that's happened. Well, I can see your mouth, which is the most important part, I suppose.
Well, that's okay then, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know
absolutely.
why that is. I've got this new webcam, and I don't know why. Yeah, well, I can't tell you mine. But that's
Keep Bob down.
Yeah. Well, if you can move sort of down a bit, that might help.
You move down as well, Mike. Go on.
That's it.
How about that?
Brilliant.
How about that? Oh, there you go. I think you've
leaning right back in my chair now.
I think you've sorted it. Yeah.
Hitmark character from the 1940s now.
Yes, I think you've. Yeah, absolutely right. So we've got plenty to talk about. There's all sorts of shenanigans going on in the world of politics right now. Nigel Farage just the other day decided that he wants to have a by-election to prove that he's the man of the people versus the blob of the establishment. What are you making of it?
Well, look, I think it's another parliamentary parlour game, isn't it, really? Nigel ain't no working class hero, much as he might try to portray himself as such. Look, he's a privately educated character who hangs out with billionaires and indeed receives significant contributions from them. And then, look, the reality is, Mike, as far as I can see, that there isn't really that much different between any of the mainstream political parties at the moment, whether it be Reform, Conservative, Labour, Liberal Democrat. They're all essentially on the same page when it comes to the economic strategy that they pursue, and indeed their foreign policy as well. I suppose Reform's USP is that they are, they talk about immigration and want to do something about making the borders more secure and stopping the boats and all this sort of stuff. But they speak with forked tongue, because the thing that drives migration flows, of course, is the sort of very foreign policy that the United Kingdom government has been pursuing for many, many years. And it's a foreign policy which actually is supported by Reform and Nigel Farage. I'm talking about the arms sales to despotic regimes. I'm talking about the punitive sanctions which are imposed on countries which actually drive people to desperation and they seek refuge elsewhere. And, of course, the wars which Britain is either directly involved or certainly on the periphery of it in terms of providing the hardware to prosecute those wars. So I think if we can get our foreign policy right, we actually stop the migration flows in the first place. And wouldn't it be better to sort of try and generate friendly relationships with other countries around the world and trading relationships with other countries around the world to actually stop creating the circumstances that create the problems in their own country and actually lead to people seeking safe refuge elsewhere. And we should also remember, of course, that Britain has a long history of imperialist endeavours all over the world, and has raped and pillaged its way across the Indian subcontinent and elsewhere in the world to enrich a very significant elite in Britain. It certainly didn't benefit the working class, that's for sure.
Well, the trouble is now, though, we haven't got any money to be involved in any imperialist endeavours, even if we wanted to have them, wouldn't we? I mean, the most money we're spending at the moment seems to be going into Ukraine rather than anywhere else. So there's nobody coming, particularly from Ukraine, into this country. And you're right to say that a lot of the countries they're coming from have been the result of sort of wars and conflicts in days gone by. But I mean, the trouble now is we've got sort of two-tier world, haven't we? We've got loads of people living in abject poverty who are told if you come to Britain, you can have a great life, and so that's why they're coming. And it might not be that things are so terrible where they are, but they're certainly worse than they are here.
Well, I mean, actually, a lot of people did come from Ukraine, and of course they were welcomed with open arms. If you remember, a year or two back, there were a lot of people coming over from Ukraine. But you say we haven't got any money. Well, Britain's one of the wealthiest countries in the world. I mean, apparently it's the 5th biggest economy in the world. The problem is that we have the wrong priorities. I mean, look, and the other thing, of course, is talking economically, Britain issues its own currency, own sovereign currency. So. We're not broke. I mean, money is no object, literally, for the government. The only impediment, really.
Well, we are broke. I mean, that's the problem. We got too. I personally think we got too big of a state.
Well, let me just explain why I'm saying that we're absolutely not broke, and why money's no object for the government. And it's because, as I say, we issue our own currency, and therefore, the government can never run out of money. The only barrier really to investment in the economy, or investment in any public spending for that matter, is the availability of real resources in the economy. Have we got access to the skilled workforce? Have we got access to the raw materials, the machinery, the infrastructure, and so on? And so what the government's focus should be on is not raising the money. I mean, it's a myth when they talk about raising taxes to pay for government spending. That isn't how it works, actually. What the focus should be on is how can we generate those real resources? And what I would like to see is the country becoming more resilient, more self-sufficient, because that would then protect the country from the sort of international crises, which, to be honest with you, some of the foreign policies that the government has been supporting is actually responsible for, like, for example, NATO's
so what you want to go back to?
Ukraine.
You want to go back to factories and shop floors and all that sort of thing? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, I do think there is a case. I mean, look, let's, when you think about it, Mike, I mean, I think it's something like 6 million manufacturing jobs have been offshored over the last 40 years.
That's because we don't make anything anymore.
I would like to see some of that being repatriated for sure. But I would also like to see us investing in, in new technologies, and generating those jobs for local people, for British people, but also investing in our infrastructure. Our infrastructure is falling to pieces. We're the 5th biggest economy in the world, and you can't drive down a road without hitting a pothole. Our housing stock's in a terrible state of disrepair. Our public services have been turned over to become a cash cow for corporations to make money from. So we need to, have a reset button. Now, Andy Burnham's saying he wants to end 40 years of neoliberalism and wants to bring utilities under greater public control. I'm not sure whether he's speaking with forked tongue on that. Nice words, but of course he's saying he's going to stick to the fiscal rules. If he sticks to the fiscal rules, which is neoliberalism 101, he will not be able to do the things that he says he wants to do. So that's why I say we need to hit the reset button. And I've got to say, Nigel Farage and this sideshow that's going to go on in Clacton, is not the answer, because it's more of the same, actually. We need a complete.
Well, if he was to get into government and he was to reduce the size of the state, which I think is a massive issue in this country, which hardly anybody ever talks about, because we've got more people now in the civil service than we've ever had. 73% increase in the numbers of people working in the civil service in the last decade alone. Right, a lot of that was down to COVID. They hired more people to deal with COVID. They hired more people to deal with Brexit. Why? They've already got too many people working in the bloody civil service. I think they'd get rid of most of them, and we'd save a bucket load of money, and that would be a good start, wouldn't it?
Well, look, I mean, I think maybe there's a case for reorganising the way in which the civil service operates. But, I take a different view. I would like to see a big expansion of the public sector, not necessarily in terms of civil service in London.
You must be joking, Chris. The public sector is by far and away... No, hang on. It's by far and away the biggest that it's ever been.
No, but let me explain why I think we should be an expansion in the public sector. Because if we were to do that, then we would be able to focus on the things that really make a difference to the quality of life of people living in this country. Our public realm, our infrastructure, as I've already said, is in a completely dilapidated state of disrepair.
And why is that? It's because people don't know how to run things in this country because you've got too many people. Yeah, it is right. If you've got, hang on, you've got more than, you've got more than 50% of the population who are now working in the public sector, right? It's never been bigger. Now, if they can't run it, there's a reason why they can't run it, and the reason they can't run it is because they're not any bloody good at it.
Well, no, I think your statistics are slightly wrong there, in fact, because, or flawed, should I say, because a lot of the so-called public sector is actually now being delivered by the private sector. That's been part of the problem. I mean, much of the National Health Service, for example, is provided by the private sector. And the problem is...
Well, like what? What's provided by the private sector? Well, hang on. Which bits of the NHS?
When you give over public services to the private sector, their fiduciary duty is to make a return, to make a profit. And so rather than, we see this, don't we, with the water industry, where they're pumping raw sewage into our rivers and seas and so on. So let's bring those utilities, let's bring those public services like social care, like the National Health Service and all the other gamut of public services, which actually, create a good society and create a quality of life for people. Let's make sure they're in the public sector. Yes, there's a role for the private sector as well. And with a big fiscal stimulus that I would like to see, that would obviously be used to expand.
And where's the fiscal stimulus coming from?
But also it would benefit the private sector because much of this work.
But you're talking pie in the sky. You're talking pie in the sky, Chris. I mean, we've been doing this a long time. I know you have, but you first of all, tell me which bits of the NHS are delivered by the private sector.
Well, let's take my own city of Derby, for example. The walk-in centre is run by the private sector. Much of it is run by the private sector. It might have an NHS badge. Many of the kind of treatment centres,
Who's running the walk-in centre then? Who's running the walk-in centre?
It's some American insurance company. I don't know the name of them actually, but if you actually look at it,
I don't think that's true.
Well, okay.
If you can't remember the name of it, it's not much of a piece of evidence, mate, is it? For heaven's sake! But also, the reason that the public sector,
down this road, didn't we? But the point is,
I never know which road I'm going down.
And your viewers, you can look this up. Much of the public sector is now delivered by the private sector. I mean, look at the kind of social services, for example, the home care and so on. These have been outsourced to private contractors and so on. And this has got to change. And, we need to have some respect for our public services, as we used to have. But as I say, if we had a big fiscal stimulus to improve our infrastructure and to actually, create the sort of good society that I'm talking about, then yes, there would be an increased role for public sector workers, but also the private sector, as I was saying, would benefit from that because they would win many of the contracts. I'm talking about a mixed economy, really, where we can all thrive. The private sector is good at doing certain things. The public sector is good at doing certain things, and let's sort of focus on the areas where.
Yeah, but if the public sector is so good at doing things, why is it getting worse, despite the fact that they're employing more people and they're in fact spending even more money in the public sector than they've ever spent?
Well, as I say, I think the priorities are wrong. I think that we should be focused on generating the sort of good society that, in a way, I grew up with. Actually, in the 1960s, we had a guarantee essentially that we would be better off than our parents were. That we could go to, not that I went to university, but you could go to university for free. That you had a welfare state which was a genuine safety net. We've got 15 million people living in poverty in the country,
rubbish.
Which is the
Absolute
fifth
rubbish.
biggest
Nobody's living in
economy
poverty
the
in this country, Chris. That's a complete left-wing myth. There's nobody living in poverty in this country. You talk about proper poverty. You talk about people coming from countries. Hang on. You talk about people coming from countries where there's literally nothing, and they have nothing, and that's why they're leaving that country to come to this country. Why do you think they're doing that? There's nobody in poverty here. We've got a public sector which protects people. We've got a massive safety net. Look at the welfare payments we're making to people. You're now better off actually on welfare than you are working. That's another
Well, that
problem.
isn't true. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it is.
another. I mean, I can put it on. It's a
Well, since they
right
lifted the
view. Look,
two-child
yeah, but
benefit
hold on,
cap,
Mike.
you could be
know, the
making,
way
you could have
talk-
50 or 60,000 quid as a family of 4 or 5 without any need to work at all.
Many people who are on social security benefits are actually in work, and that's a real sort of shameful situation.
Well, that's ridiculous, isn't it? That's an unsustainable
Yes, exactly.
situation.
So there should be an uplifting. But the point is, people who are on low incomes, people who are on social security, actually, what do they do with that money? They spend that in the real economy. So it's an economic driver. I mean, what doesn't happen when you give big tax cuts to wealthy oligarchs is that they don't spend much of that money. They secrete it in tax havens and they hoard it, but they don't still spend a bit of it, but they don't spend most of it. And so
they spend a lot of it on tax, actually, even though they might not spend as much tax as you'd like them to spend, but they do pay quite a lot of tax. Anyway, listen, I'm getting a lot of complaints about your half a head scenario. They say we can't take this guy seriously. We can't take him seriously until he fixes his camera. Fix your camera, and we'll get you back on.
Look, I'm at a certain age, that technologies are slightly beyond me.
Well, get one of those poor people, pay them some money, and let them to fix your camera for you, and then you'll be your own entrepreneur. Good to see you, Chris Williamson. There, thank you very much indeed. I don't know who sold him half a camera, but he needs to go and get the other half so it can work. Let's talk to Jamie Jenkins, who I'm pretty sure has got a proper camera, and we might. But there we go. Well, we can see all of him now. Jamie, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. Problem is, if he's advising the Labour government on what he should do, if he can't sort his camera out, how is he going to sort this country out?
Well, I mean, you do have to wonder about a guy who wants to revamp the economy, who can't figure out which half of the camera he should be looking down. But Chris Williamson is too left wing for this government, even the next left wing government, from Burnham's point of view, which is actually going to be worse. But we've got plenty to talk about this morning, including, of course, how much. I mean, he says the country's got plenty of money. Not as far as the OBR are concerned. They say there's a crisis looming.
Yeah, I think when he said the country's got plenty of money, Mike, I think his camera was covering the OBR report. I think that's what's probably going on because we had this OBR report out this week. So they kind of look at the fiscal economy and what's going on, Mike, and it kind of lays bare the problem that we've got in this country because. We talked on the show the last few weeks as well. So since Reeves has come in, we've borrowed £274.3 billion. And the main issue with the OBR report is that if we look at, say, this is pre-Labour now, this is going back to the Tories, last 2 decades, the UK's experienced now, Mike, one of the largest increases in debt as a share of GDP of any of the advanced economies. We've just been borrowing beyond our means. The Tories were doing we haven't had a fiscal surplus. That's where we have more tax coming in than what we spend. I think since the early 2000s, it's been literally borrowing. And what the OBR have done is they've just said, well, if we carry on with the same plan that we've got for the next, say, 50 years, what are the things we measure, Mike? And I'll just explain, because we always come on the show and I always throw around GDP and people might be thinking, what the hell is GDP? So GDP is the value of all the goods and services produced in the economy. So it's basically the size of the economy. And you always look at stuff relative to GDP.
Yeah.
So then you can see how manageable is our debt. So it's currently on around 95%, Mike. If we carry on the plans that we've got, it could get up to something like 300%. Even today, 95% is absolutely off the scale. And if we want to keep it at that level, I read a report the other day, I think Burnham needs to increase taxes or lower spending. He ain't going to lower spending by another 120 billion quid. So Mike, the country is literally bankrupt. That guy who was on just now, he's just talking through his backside.
Yeah. He was filming it through his backside, I think, as well.
Yeah, but having more and more public sector, Mike. Just remember, this is it's not hard to work this out. The public sector pays no tax. You need a private sector to pay for it. So this is laid bare, Mike, the big problem that we've got in this country.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, I mentioned the 2-child benefit cap as well to him, because it is now possible, if you are a family of 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, that you could be making 50, 60, 70,000 pounds a year from benefits, right, without anyone going to work.
Well, yeah, and we had data out from DWP yesterday talking about how many people are going to benefit from this. So I think there's around close to 450,000 households now who are going to get more money by lifting the cap. We haven't got enough money as it is. That's going to cost, by the end of the term of this parliament, Mike, is getting approaching 3 billion quid extra. which looks quite small in the grand scheme of we're borrowing 270 odd billion pounds since the Parliament come in. But every policy decision that gets added on and added on and added on, where the government just seems to think, oh, yeah, we'll spend other people's money. Let's put the debt onto the next generation. That adds up and that causes problems, Mike. And where do you get the money from? You've got three options here. You can either increase tax, but we've already, if we look at just before COVID, we were spending, the tax take was around 37% of the GDP. By 2030, 31, it's going to go up to 43%. You can't continue taxing people, but the government's got no plan to cut spending. And I was reading this morning, Mike, I know you said with earlier on, this is a slow news day, but I picked up a story in the Telegraph this morning that one of the advisors, senior advisors for Andy Burnham's talking about having a national food service. Literally a national food service where the government owns restaurants and gives free food to people.
You must be joking.
Literally. Yeah, no, you'll probably be talking about that one tomorrow, and you catch up with that one, Mike. I think it's dropped this morning. But there's talk of having, I think it's Lord O'Neill. He's one of Andy Burnham's senior advisors in the Telegraph this morning, talking of a national food service, about 9,500 restaurants, where they literally provide free food for British families. Because obviously the word free gets branded around. Mike Brew's going to pay for it.
What do you have to do? Show some kind of a free food card or something that you get issued with if you're on benefits?
Well, it's probably it's one of those ill-thought things coming through, Mike. But yeah, a national food service, got a national health service, a national food service, and it's just bonkers, Mike. And public spending has gone off the scale. So if we want to keep,
because it's the only thing they know. It's the only thing they know how to do. I mean, there was a story yesterday which we didn't do that much with. Bridget Phillipson talking in the Telegraph about giving basically free childcare to people on benefits. And you're kind of going, well, hang on. If you're on benefits, you're probably not working. So therefore, why do you need childcare?
Well, it's more time to go down the pub, Mike, isn't it? It might boost the hospitality sector potentially. But
I mean, just ridiculous.
Well, I think one of the things that was missing from Starmer's speech, wasn't he, when he resigned? That I'm just gutted he didn't throw in the free school meals that breakfast clubs and stuff that he keeps talking about. The government, the Labour government, are very good at saying free, Mike. It's free this, free that.
Yeah,
nothing's free in life. Somebody's paying for it somewhere, and what do they think's paying for it? Well, it's us lot, the muggins, the taxpayer, and ultimately, Mike, public spending is about 40% of GDP.
Yeah.
It's going to go up. The ticking time bomb we've got, Mike, right? You've got to lay the facts down bare. Is that so? The median age, that's basically the midpoint of all. If you ranked everybody in the country at the moment, and you looked at the age of the population, the median age, that's kind of roughly in the middle. It's around 40 at the moment.
Yeah.
That's going to grow towards 50. So we are going to have a lot more older people in the next 50 years as a proportion of the population. Pensions need to be paid for, social care needs to be paid for. But ultimately, Mike, we can't continue with an economy where we can tax. You've got to get the third thing, Mike. I said you can either increase tax. We're already at the top of that. You can cut spending, Burnham won't do it, or you can go for growth. And a remarkable stat that I saw this morning, Mike, is that if you look at since the financial crisis in 2008, and you look at the growth the UK economy has been having, it's the worst period of growth that we've had since 1761 to the 1800s. Literally, that's how far back you've got to go. How screwed up this country is under the last 20 years of government.
Well, finally, there's a report out again today. Sir Stephen Timms, the Social Security Minister, has come out and said, basically in a report, that Britain's main sickness benefit, which is disability benefits, is not fit for purpose. And we found out, didn't we, that there's a 40% increase, I think, in the numbers of people now claiming PIP for anxiety and ADHD and all the rest of it since Labour got into power. So they've more than almost doubled the number of people claiming it.
Yeah, and remarkable the numbers of younger people claiming some anxiety and mental health related. He's right. It isn't fit for purpose because the benefit system, like when it was set up many, many years ago, it was set up as a safety net for people. Now it seems to be a lifestyle, and I'm sure a lot of parents are going out getting, especially when children are younger. We talked on the show last week about kind of mental health crises in schools and getting labels. They got to get these labels because then you can get. When you get into an adult, you get mobility cars. The government, ultimately, Mike, we've got to get a crackdown on all of this. Get spending right down. We can't live in a society where benefits is a lifestyle. And basically, you've got to make work pay. People have got to get off their backside, go to work. I wonder what would happen if you think like, there's always local authorities who could be, you need to cut the grass. There's always stuff that needs doing in communities. Maybe the government should say, rather than sit on your arse and get benefits, you need to do something for the community. And then think, well, actually, I prefer to go and get a proper job then. That might be the way. This is just
they've got to do something because this
Yeah.
report is saying that basically by the end of the decade, the cost of handouts is set to hit £41 billion.
Yeah. And Mike, I remember when Cameron and Osborne were in and they were talking about a big investment into the NHS. They were saying, I think, wow, we're putting another £5 billion into the NHS. This is like pocket money now when you're talking about the vast sums of borrowing that we're doing. And yet another X billion pounds for welfare, another X billion pounds on free school or free childcare, the whole lot. The government's literally, all we got, Mike, is a credit card where if you think of a household, you've basically got a debt. So Mike, imagine now you're not making enough money and you think, oh, I need to go and borrow some money off the bank. And then the bank phone you up and say, oh, hiya, Mike, you owe me some money. You got to pay that debt back. And say, I haven't had enough money. So can I borrow some more? All we're doing as a country is borrowing more and more money. In May alone, Mike, we borrowed £11.7 billion just to pay the debt interest on what was paid, borrowed over the last century or so. And that's going up to about £110 billion annually. It's just unsustainable. And that's where the OBR kind of highlighted you, Mike, that we'll be long gone, Mike, by 2075, I'm sure. But
unless they come up with some kind of elixir of life that we can all take. And but that's the other problem, isn't it? Because people are living longer and the pension is running. I mean, I used to say this to my mother, and it was sort of slightly tongue-in-cheek, but she had been a teacher all her life, and so she was entitled to quite a decent pension as a teacher. But she took about £1 million over the course, because she lived till she was 99, right? And I used to say to her, I said, you've taken £1 million out of the exchequer. I said, there's no way they'll ever get that back. Because she ended up actually retired for longer than she worked. Because I think she retired at, 60? So she's 39 years, right? If you think about it. And I know not everybody lives that long. And obviously you can't, deny it to people. But the point is the whole system doesn't work, does it?
Oh no, and good on you, Mum, Mike, for living that long and great. But yeah, I know a policeman lives nearby to me, and he has to retire at 50. I think he's done his term or something, so he's got a pension now on the taxpayer. He's 50. He might live till he's like 80, 90. But yeah, if you actually look at it, because we talk about the government debt with the NHS, we've got far more and more kind of procedures, and we can treat people for things that we couldn't do years ago. We've got the triple lock, which means that people either go up with inflation earnings, or with the triple lock, keeping pensions going up quite a lot there. When you actually worked on an average basis, and you take all the people in the country, there's a lot of people, Mike, in this country who aren't paying in enough to what they take out the system, which is why we've got to keep borrowing money. And the government, I did read another story this morning, Mike, about Burnham might try and attract some of these wealthy people who've left with some, those billionaires and stuff, try and get them back into the country, because they left them the Starmaries. But any Burnham economics, the only thing I could see, Mike, is more and more people leaving because
he'll make the next tier down leave, because he'll make people leave who maybe are making a decent salary, maybe six figures or something like that, and those people will start going, hang on a minute, because we're going to be looking at paying probably upwards of 55% in tax, maybe more, under Burnham. Once you've got a new mansion tax coming in, once you've got new capital gains tax coming in, forget about the VAT and all the other income taxes that you pay and the council tax that you pay. But anyone who's making a decent salary in this country now under Andy Burnham is losing at least half of it, if not more, to the bleeding government.
Yeah, and we got fiscal drag, Mike, which is where basically your earnings keeps going up and they're not moving the tax band, so more and more people get trapped in it. This story we was talking, I think, this week with Dan Wootton on as well, Mike, with his YouTube and trying to make more prominence, and they'll probably try and crack down. I think the only solution for this one, Mike, is I think I've said to you before, where you need to take your show and bugger off down to the Canary Islands, off of the British mainland. I'll come down there with you, Mike. I can probably do my roles from anywhere, and let's not give any money to the bloody British taxpayer. You can have free speech wherever you want, and we can talk about what's going on with a pina colada down on the Canary Islands. I think it'd be a lot more, much more of a happy life down there, I think.
I think it would be. Now, I've got to ask you about the poll before I let you go, because we've got a poll going today, which is what is your most vivid memory? Your first kiss, your wedding day, your first Christmas, or your first holiday? Or it could be none of the above. It could be something else.
I think my first vivid memory, Mike, was Keir Starmer's resignation. I can't remember much before that. My head's absolutely mad. Literally, I think that's my first vivid memory. What happened before then, Mike? I haven't got the foggiest idea what the hell's been going on.
Blimey. Yeah, I know. It'd be interesting if you did wipe your memories away and it's the only thing you could. I'd wake up screaming, I think, if that was the memory I had. It'd be great. Jamie, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Jamie Jenkins there. Here's one from, can I just see that before you take it away? Oh. My earliest memory is watching the next door neighbour chasing her son around the back garden, trying to get him in the bath, says Jenny. Is that when you were a kid that you saw that? That's quite funny, isn't it? Yeah, it's quite an interesting question, this one, and so we're getting an awful lot of you giving your views to us. We used to go on holiday to Jersey and Guernsey and the Isle of Man, but my first holiday was in Belgium, says Carol. Yeah, I've got quite a funny story from one of the holidays we took in Belgium. I don't know if I should tell it, though. When I was a child, it had something to do with...
oh, I know, the bucket.
The bucket, yeah. The bucket, which...
I like it.
Should I tell it?
Yeah.
So we used to go... My dad was a bit eccentric, as you probably might have guessed from some of my stories about him. And so we used to basically set off in the old Austin Cambridge that we had, and which was lovely. Didn't have any seatbelts in the back seat, obviously. And we used to go camping in a place called the Lido di Jesolo, which was down opposite Venice on the mainland of you'll know it from Pooch's Italian heritage, of course. And we would drive basically across Europe, and we would put all the sort of camping equipment across the back, the floor of the back seat. So the back seat was like a big double bed, effectively, and I would sleep through most of it. But we would sort of stop in various places, and for some reason we never stayed in any hotels. We always ended up staying in people's houses, because you could go to the local tourist office, which was sometimes just a little booth somewhere. Like I remember in Salzburg we went to the tourist office, it was just this little booth in the middle of the street. And he would sort of emerge from these places with a list of houses that we could stay in. I remember we once stayed in a place in Cordoba in Spain, which was this amazing house that was one of those Arab-style houses with the big sort of open square in the middle, and then just 4 sides to it. And I always remember we had this meal of mammoth proportions. This guy was very large, actually, and he made about 5 or 6 courses. One of the courses was just a big plate of kidneys. I don't know why I remember that. Do you not like kidneys either? No,
do you?
I love kidneys.
Do you?
Yeah, absolutely. Steak kidney pie, fantastic. But this was just like literally just kidneys on a plate, a huge pile of them. Anyway, so I went to one of the places we stayed was somewhere in Belgium. I can't remember if it was Bruges or somewhere like that, but it was sort of the outskirts, and it was a very French woman, Belgian woman looking, who had a sort of her hair tied up in a scarf, and she seemed to wear a house dress that was kind of like one of those old-fashioned things that buttoned up the front. Anyway, they had, I think there wasn't a toilet obviously you stayed in a bedroom, and I think I stayed with my sister in one room, and my parents slept in another room. And I had to get up in the middle of the night and go and find the toilet. I couldn't find a toilet anywhere. Looking around, there was this little courtyard, and
How old were you, Mike?
It's probably about 7 or 8, and I thought there's better be an outside toilet or something. I don't know. Couldn't find it, but then I saw this bucket, and I thought, well, that must be what you're supposed to use then. So I sat on the bucket and did the thing that I did, and then just went back to bed, and didn't really think much of it until the next morning, when the woman was shouting and screaming, because apparently the bucket wasn't for that. And I was terribly embarrassed, and of course had to pretend it wasn't me, because you had to pretend it was somebody's broken into the house and done it. And she was sort of pointing and shouting, and it was all a bit embarrassing. Anyway, that's my charming little story from Belgium. I've always had a funny sort of notion I'm never going back to Belgium because of that, in case they ask me about it. Anyway, Linda.
Good time to Lord Buckethead.
Lord Buckethead. Yeah, Linda Jubilee's here. Hello, Linda.
Hello, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm sorry about that story. It's one of those kind of strange children's stories that you tell. Things that happen to you. We could start you off with the poll if you like. I don't know if you've seen it. We've got this poll today, which was on what was your first and most vivid memory that you can think of. And can we get it up?
Yeah.
There we go. First kiss, wedding day, first Christmas, or first holiday. Doesn't have to be any of those. Could be something else.
Well, I think it was, in fact, my first holiday. And I remember my mum and dad took me and my brother, my youngest brother hadn't been born then, to a Butlins holiday camp. And
Oh,
my
yeah.
dad there was a fancy dress evening. And my dad, because he had great faith in my sort of aesthetic approach, decided I should be a fairy. And he made the fairy wings out of wire coat hangers covered
Right.
in white crepe paper.
Very
and I
nice.
still remember what a labour of love it was. And, you know, he's gone now, but I loved him very much. So I remember that evening.
That's
a lot.
nice. That's lovely, yeah. I mean, fancy dress used to be much more interesting in those days, didn't it? Because you couldn't go to a shop and just buy an outfit. You'd have to make something out of coat hangers. Inevitably, coat hangers were involved. I remember my dad. I once went to a fancy dress party dressed as a hole-in-one, and my dad basically made this huge kind of cardboard thing, which I went inside, which was like a big tube, and then he cut a hole for my face and just did a big number 1 on it. And that was it, hole in one, which was great. You know, I didn't even win because somebody had something better. But you know, you just spend sort of hours doing stuff like that. You know, whereas now kids are kind of like, oh, I want to go as Spider-Man. I'll just go and buy the outfit. You know.
Yeah, no creativity. I went to a July the 4th party on Saturday.
Oh, did you?
And yeah, and you know that's quite challenging because I don't really want to go as a cowgirl with a star-spangled banger tied around my hips or whatever.
Right.
I found quite a nice outfit, you know, red, white, and blue, but fairly tasteful. But it was a wonderful event.
Was it?
With really amazing food. Yeah, I've had a great time.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of that over the weekend, a lot of July the 4th partying, and I started going, well, hang on a minute, why have I not been invited to any of these? I mean, I was at quite a posh party on Sunday, which was a bit political. It was very hot, and I was just standing, I just kept trying to find shade to go and stand in because it was so hot. But one of the things that was being talked about, of course, which was on Sunday, the days before all of this stuff madness kicked off, there was quite a few Tories there and sort of, you know, Tory adjacents, if you like, or reform adjacents, some of them are being called, all talking about how, you know, it's all over for Nigel, you know, I think he's finished, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I don't think he is, and I think that his manoeuvre this week to call a by-election is actually quite clever. I know that the mainstream kind of view of that is that he's got it wrong and that he's going to look silly. But I think the mainstream parties are making themselves look silly. What do you think?
Well, look, I've always said about Nigel that I think he is an absolutely first-class communicator. I've been on air with him. I've met him. He's a really decent guy. He's very professional. But I have to say that I think that this move is misguided, and I do believe that it's a tactical error. And the reason is because it turned into a fiasco so quickly. And at the end of the day, I just wonder what it proves. It proves that it will prove, I am sure, that he is popular with the constituents of Clacton-on-Sea, and that they really like him. They're going to vote him back in again. But what does that actually prove? It just means that people in one particular area actually vote for him. Now, many people might be behind him in this country, but they're not able to vote. So how indicative is this? That's the question I ask.
Right. Well, the reason, I'll give you an answer to that, because I think what it proves, and it was proved yesterday really in Parliament, is that the established kind of political machine, if you like, which is the two main parties plus the Lib Dems, Parliament, you know, the way it all works, is very much anti-reform, and I think he's for me anyway. For each day that passes, they prove that, because yesterday, for example, during Deputy Prime Minister's questions, there was all this kind of guffawing and laughing and making fun of Nigel and Daisy Cooper getting up and saying, "Oh, leave means leave," but he's coming back. And they're all chuckling, and the ordinary people of this country, I think, who would think about voting for reform, see that, and they go, you see, they're all just in their own little club. They're all just playing, pretending they care about the country, but all they really care about is lining their own pockets. And I think that's what it proves.
I don't think it proves it. I think that feeling does exist. There's absolutely no question about that. What yesterday, and I watched PMQ's Soup to Nuts, is that the MPs in general do not understand how to behave. And I that's what I think it proved. I don't think it proved anything about Nigel Farage, who, to be very fair to him, has the finger on the pulse.
Yeah.
That's what he's trying to do here. I see the methodology behind this. I can see that he wants a combative situation between himself and the establishment. I just think it was a misfire.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, again, lots of people are saying, oh, when he's standing there at the end, it's just him and Count Binface, he's going to look stupid. Well, I think they're going to look stupid because, they are denying the public of Clacton a chance to vote for them. And I don't think that should be in their gift. I think they should be made to stand in a by-election because let's face it, the only reason they're not doing it is to try and make Nigel Farage look idiotic. And that's not a reason not to stand in an election.
Well, so there's a specific point there. I think when Andy Burnham stood between Count Binface and a big fluffy bunny, I do think he looked a bit silly. So I think there's that image. I don't think Nigel's going to particularly look any more silly than Andy Burnham. But I think that there is a general feeling that in the public now, people I speak to, that it's become a little bit of a fiasco on both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, people are disenchanted with all politicians. That's the problem we've got now. And that has happened in an era where we need very serious politicians to approach very serious situations. Just overnight, we saw more US strikes on Iran because Iranians had hit out at the Strait of Hormuz before that. And we are entering into a period where the top military guy in the UK, Richard Knighton, has said we can expect to be in some kind of war with Russia in the next 3 years. We don't want this pantomime going on around us. We actually want serious politicians.
Yeah, but we haven't had any serious politicians for a long time, which is why Reform have become so popular so quickly. But of course now, and it can't be a coincidence, can it, that suddenly as they get more and more popular, now there's suddenly this kind of massive, wave of stories coming out about where does their money come from, because if you look at the facts of the matter, considering what's actually happened in the past couple of months, you've gone from, Nigel Farage is definitely going to be the next Prime Minister to, is he even going to be leading the party if there's an election in 3 years' time?
Look, I think and probably I'll get shot down for this, I'm sure, but I am told that inside the tent at Reform, there was a feeling that they were in fact losing momentum. And I think that, all political parties go up and down. And it was clear to some commentators that Reform had plateaued out a bit in recent months. So I don't think it was a question of the establishment thinking, oh my God, they are racing ahead in the polls all the time. I think Reform...
But they were still leading in the polls, though. That's the point, isn't it?
But they had still slowed.
Well, yeah, but I mean, in a way, but again, an awful lot of this is the sort of narrative that gets talked about around Westminster and the things that get said.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the chat inside the tent,
yeah.
Right? Not inside the Westminster tent, inside the Reform tent, was a feeling that they needed to do something. And this is quite a genuine thing for Nigel Farage to do. He genuinely thought, I need to put, myself on the line here because I need to make things absolutely clear so that we can rebuild momentum and at least maintain what we've got. Now, I might be completely wrong, but I suspect that I am right.
I love the way you say that. I suspect that I'm right, with such charm and assuredness, But yeah, listen, I'm very much aware of the fact that much of what I say about Reform is not necessarily shared by an awful lot of other commentators and certainly not an awful lot of other politicians, and that's fine. That's why I'm here, as the biggest breakfast show on YouTube, because people understand that I have my finger on the pulse as well, and I'm pretty sure that I'm right too, but so there we are. What does that tell you? But the bottom line for me is that I think everybody can agree that Reform have not handled themselves terribly well in the last few months. But I do think also it's possible that two things can be true. I do think also that there is a very serious kind of campaign going on from all quarters now. I mean, The Guardian have got a load of stories this morning from the National Crime Agency, some suggestions that the National Crime Agency is leaking stuff to them. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Certainly, the Nigel Farage's people will tell you that the original leak of the story about the £5 million gift was obtained by some would say nefarious means. All of these things can happen. Doesn't make it illegal necessarily, but it's a bit more of a coincidence. It's a bit more than just a coincidence that all of this stuff's happening to Nigel Farage at the moment, I think.
Yeah, and look, let's face it, he is one of the most consequential politicians of our generation.
Yeah.
He's got his finger on the pulse. He knows what what the talk is amongst many people in this country, and he is correct in his assessment. This situation is occurring for him precisely because people feel disenfranchised. They want to use a famous phrase, I think Dominic Cummings came up with it in the Brexit campaign, take back control. They
Yeah.
want to feel not just that they are taking control, but they are resuming the control they had before. And you have to listen to people when they say that. When people get stuck, famously in that Westminster bubble, a lot of the time they are not listening to what the general public feel. And the
Right.
general public feel like they're working harder and harder and harder, and they feel poorer and poorer and
Yeah.
poorer, and they're really worried about their children because they can't get them onto the housing ladder. There aren't enough houses around. There aren't enough jobs around, and they're feeling it's not just their own financial security that they fear over, it is the future for their children. That's a very, very serious thing that many politicians are completely ignoring.
Yeah, absolutely right. And let's face it, you know, James Cleverly asked about it yesterday during PMQs. You know, they're going to set free a whole load of very dangerous men onto the streets beginning in September.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of murderers, rapists, paedophiles. I mean, for heaven's sake, you know, as I said earlier, you know, if you want to get 14, they're supposedly creating 14,000 more spaces in prison by 2031. Great, whoop-de-doo, you know, by which time, how many more people have been murdered?
Why don't you, that's you in general, run the prison system properly over a period of some time, a decade, and then we wouldn't be in this situation. But we are in this situation. You listen to someone like Lucy Connolly when she says, when she was inside, there were many, many women there that did not deserve or need to be there, that have been separated
Well, she
from their
was one of
families.
them.
Yeah, and she was one of them. She shouldn't be incarcerated. At least she had a husband at home to look after her daughter. Some of those women, you know, they're single mothers. They shouldn't be in jail. They should. We should be taking a whole big look at the legal system in this country, the policing and the legal system, because of course they're tied together inextricably. And we should be focusing on how we have to deal with this. But I go back to my original point. What you need is a serious politician with the future of this country right at the centre of their being. You do not need people who treat politics like an advanced game of snakes and ladders.
Yeah, exactly right. Let me just finish up with a question about Harry. You used to work for the Daily Mail. I don't think I'd want to be Harry at this moment in time because they're going to go for him something rotten, aren't they?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I worked on the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday, and I wouldn't get on the wrong side of that lot, I can tell you. Well, I wouldn't get on the wrong side of me. I wouldn't get on the wrong side of me when I was on those newspapers.
No.
But I was incredibly proud of what Paul Dacre said
He was
after
brilliant,
the
wasn't
judgment.
he? Yeah.
He gave me my first job.
Yeah.
And he was a challenging man, but he was a fair man. And I tell you one thing, I never forgot, because I'd left the paper, I was at Sky or a broadcaster by then, when the judge released the guilty men, I can say that now, in the Stephen Lawrence trial, he sat up with the lawyers that now, hour after hour after hour, and he took a really, really risky move.
He did.
And he put those people on the front, murderers, right across the front page. And then very, very, for killing Stephen Lawrence, which is so bizarre that Doreen Lawrence should have been in the action against him.
And he did, and he made that point, and I think he made it very well. And I think she was kind of hoodwinked in a way, though, by the hacked-off crowd who are ghastly people who just want to see the end of all newspapers, basically. And Harry as well, who's been taken on a very long and expensive ride, I think, by his lawyer.
Many millions. The bill now is many millions, and at the end of the day, I do feel some sympathy for him, because I don't think he ever really recovered from the death of his mother. And you remember the enduring image of that little boy walking behind the coffin. You know, and people will say, well, it's about time he got over it, blah, blah, blah. I agree. It would be good if he could put the past behind him. But I understand that, in fact, he can't. He keeps he keeps reliving this trauma, this hurt he felt in various scenarios that aren't in fact helping him at all.
No, he's very self-indulgent, I think. I think that's part of the problem with the boy. But there we are. We call him a boy still, and he's like 40 odd. It's ridiculous. Linda, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. We shall see how you are proved right and I'm proved wrong or not later. I'll be back. Another time. Linda Jubilee, thank you very much indeed. This from Olivia. I think my earliest memory was my mad mother chasing me around the house with a wooden spoon. Crikey. That's dreadful, isn't it? What a nasty piece of work. Now, coming up, I think we're going to talk... Who are we going to talk to now? Oh, Catherine Porter's next, yeah. Do you know what we should do, though, before we forget to do it, is play that Jacob Rees-Mogg clip, which we played yesterday. I'm going to keep playing it. I make no apology for it. It is indeed self-aggrandizement, but I think we can afford to do it as the biggest YouTube show in Britain. Have a look.
Media has blossomed because of competition and because of the different channels through which it can be delivered. Look at Mike Graham, who was with Talk and set up on his own. He's doing an incredible job broadcasting every day, interesting content, getting very good viewing figures, and he's doing that on a shoestring compared to the main broadcasters.
You cut it short.
Did I?
Yeah. I mean, this is our moment. Can we play it again?
I didn't cut it short.
Well, it felt like it stopped in the middle of a word.
Yes.
Go on.
Media has blossomed because of competition and because of the different channels through which it can be delivered. Look at Mike Graham, who was with Talk and set up on his own. He's doing an incredible job broadcasting every day, interesting content, getting very good viewing figures, and he's doing that on a shoestring compared to the main broadcasters.
That's all right. There we are. Very nice too. Thank you very much, Jacob. What a splendid gentleman. Let's talk to Catherine Porter, who we haven't had on the show for ages, actually. Catherine, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Sorry about the patting myself on the back thing. I just thought it's not every day that
No,
Jacob Rees-Mogg says something nice about So
great status that Jacob.
yeah, absolutely. Now I've just watched or just a look at your Twitter page where you said that the hot weather is not exactly making life easy for our general grid system. So tell us what's happening.
Right. So we've got that kind of hot weather at the moment where it's very sunny, it's very hot, but it's not windy. And this situation doesn't just apply here in Britain, it also applies on the continent. And that means that everybody's struggling a little bit for electricity. Now, because the temperatures are so high, the grid itself is also operating less efficiently. Both solar and thermal generation loses quite a bit of efficiency in the heat. Line losses are higher because basically the wires expand and so they have higher resistance. You have bigger losses in transformers. So the grid has to run faster to stand still, basically. In Europe, you also have issues with water levels, so it affects the cooling for the French nuclear reactors. It affects fuel deliveries in things like the coal plant in Germany because the barges can't load as much because the river levels are too low. So there's all this stuff going on that's making the markets tight. And because we rely so much on imports, the European countries just don't have it to spare. And on top of that, at the end of May, the European Union actually imposed restrictions on NESO, the system operator's ability to change interconnector flows within days. So it used to be able to do any volume on the interconnectors, and it was all just a question of negotiating with the other country. Now it's limited to just 1,500 megawatts across all of the interconnectors. So that's just quite a small fraction of the total. And so that's really restricting the tools that the system operator has to manage this situation. So today we've got it's the third day that this summer, a third day in the last 2 weeks actually, where we've had a warning that the margins aren't enough for the evening. And so we're going to have to expect the system operator to try and find some extra generation from somewhere.
Right, and so and Claire Coutinho has been talking about this as well a little bit in terms of the security of the grid and how fragile the grid actually is and how close we've been in recent months at various different times for various different reasons to maybe, if not blackouts, possibly brownouts.
Yeah, so I mean, Claire was specifically mentioning the 23rd of June. And what's interesting about that day was that everything that NISO has said was that it basically was a normal day. Now, what we see if we look at the market data for that day is that the grid frequency, which is the rate at which current and voltage vary within an alternating current system, is a very important parameter on the grid. Equipment is very sensitive to this.
Yeah.
It actually went below the safe operating limit multiple times within the evening and remained below the limit for extended periods as well. So in that situation, you expect the system operator to start using all of its reserves to bring the frequency back up. Now, we saw at about 7:10 in the evening, it made an emergency instruction with the interconnector to the Netherlands to reduce export. But that didn't really have very much effect. So then at 8 o'clock, it made a similar instruction to one of the French interconnectors to cut the exports to France. And then we finally saw the frequency recovering. Now, it's called emergency assistance. That's literally the name of it, emergency assistance. So it's not supposed to be part of the normal operating toolkit. And yet NISO is telling us that this was a normal day. There was nothing to see here. The system was secure. We just took the normal steps and it was all good. But you don't do emergency actions if it's a normal day and it's all good. And the difficulty is that if you're saying that you can do emergency actions when it's a normal day and it's all good, well, we rely very heavily on imports in the winter. Now, you take a country like France, where their electricity system is very temperature sensitive because most people have electric heating. When it gets cold, their demand goes up very rapidly. Now, normally France exports to us. You're now creating a situation where they could easily say, well, you know what? We're seeing our demand going up in France. We're seeing our prices going up. We would actually rather not export to Britain. And given that, we can just turn off the interconnectors because that's just now a normal operating process, then we're putting ourselves in jeopardy by that. Now, the other issue is that there's been really just no comment from NISO about that day other than to say that it was all fine. And it clearly wasn't fine if you look at the data. So there is a transparency issue there. And, Claire Coutinho's allegations that were made in the House of Commons on Tuesday that there were being deliberate cover-ups about this are really concerning, and that definitely needs to be investigated.
For sure. But I mean, it would be entirely in keeping with most other government departments, wouldn't it? That we're just being lied to, basically, and we're being told, oh, don't worry about that. There's nothing to see here. Everything's fine. Well, the NHS waiting lists are coming down. We're giving away free school meals and free breakfast clubs to people. It's all going terribly well. We've got the migrations coming down. We've got plenty of teachers. Don't worry about that. The NHS. Is working perfectly. It's all just smoke and mirrors, isn't it? It's government by deception, in fact.
Well, I mean, it is, but NISO is supposed to be independent of the government. So
yeah, of course.
And if it's
sorry, forgive me for laughing.
Is it even being truthful to the government? The allegations that were being made, according to the letter that Claire Coutinho wrote, so she's requested that the Information Commission investigates this. She'd obviously raised this in the House of Commons. The implication is that they didn't actually tell anybody, and that they tried to cover it up so that nobody outside of NISO knew about it. So that is extremely concerning. It's one thing if the government chooses to lie to voters. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but the government ought to be running the country. It's quite another thing if people then lie to the government, so they don't know what's going on either. Right. And so, I just think this whole thing is quite suspicious. For NISO to be sitting there saying that there was nothing exceptional on the day, when we can see from looking at the frequency data that it was not a good day, that this was. We were outside the safe operating limit. It's called a safe operating limit for a reason. They had to do these emergency actions to recover from it. You can't just sit there saying this was all fine and normal.
No, quite. I mean, I saw a weird story, and I don't know what they would be used for otherwise, but there was a weird story that Kate Guido Fawkes broke the other day, which was about the government paying this offshore wind company £30 million to repurpose their boats so that they could use them in the channel to pick up migrants who might be, in jeopardy. And I thought to myself, well, hang on a minute. There is a name for the company. I can't remember what it was, but it's an offshore wind company, which I guess would have boats for the purposes of putting offshore wind turbines in the sea, right? But clearly, they're not doing anything because they can use the ships now for the Home Office to pick up migrants. And you just think there's two things going on here. One, we're paying an awful lot of money to these people for the course of the next year, apparently, to pick people up, showing that we're not actually trying to stop them coming. In fact, we're actively bringing them here on ships which belong to an offshore wind company, which is obviously not using those ships to build anything. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to use them for this.
Mm. Yeah, so I haven't heard about that story. The ships aren't just used for building, they're used for maintenance as well.
Yeah, okay.
So I guess if they've got gaps within their maintenance schedule, I don't blame the company for this. If they can get money,
no, I don't blame the company.
increase
I blame
the
the government.
utilization of their boats, then I guess that's good for them.
Right.
But, what astonishes me is that this government is probably the worst government in my lifetime, or at least
definitely.
my living memory. Maybe if we go back to the 1970s when I was a child, it might have been a little worse, but I don't really remember that.
I don't think it was. I remember it, and I don't think it was because Britain was a very different country then as well. We didn't have as many problems. We had problems fiscally, and we had strikes, and we had unions, and we had running battles in the street, but it never seemed quite as hopeless as it does now.
Well, but I think that, if you listen to what Andy Burnham says, he seems to want to go back to the 1970s.
Yeah.
He seems to think that the Thatcher government was a huge error, and that the focus on market forces and privatization and so on was wrong. Now, he talks about things like nationalising energy and water companies. I don't know where he's going to find the money for that. Our government borrowing now is at record levels. We have the highest tax burden since the late 1940s, literally the immediate post-war reconstruction. He has all of these spending plans, and he hasn't explained how he's going to do it and where he's going to find the money. A quarter of government expenditure is now going on welfare. This is not a sustainable situation. We're now hearing credible economists suggesting that we could have a sovereign debt crisis within the next 5 years. And he is making that, from what we understand what he's saying, obviously he hasn't put very much detail around it, that would make it very much worse. This whole idea that we need to spend more money and give more welfare and all the rest of it is just not sustainable. And there's a real danger that we will be bankrupt. And I don't mean that in a hyperbolic way. I mean a literal sovereign debt crisis where we cannot raise more money from the bond markets without, maybe an IMF bailout, although I'm not sure the IMF has enough money to bail
It doesn't, apparently. I've been told this by a couple of different economists. We'd
have to print money to be able to meet our obligations, and then you would end up in an emergency situation. Everything that could be cut would be cut. They'd be trying to squeeze more taxes. I suspect we'd end up, we'd have to have massive deregulation. One of the big things that's holding us back actually is over-regulation. We've strangled ourselves in red tape. We can't do anything. It's crazy that you spend £1 billion on a new Thames crossing and you haven't even started digging yet.
Yeah.
The government has all these ambitions to build more houses, and yet there are fewer houses being built than before the last election. All of these rules that have come in that sound nice in principle.
What about HS2? We've spent £100 billion on HS2. We haven't got any track, haven't got any trains. And yet Andy Burnham wants to go back to expanding it up into the northern part of England.
Well, maybe build the bit you've already committed to before trying to build any more. But this is crazy, and there is a sense, I think, that the country is starting to disintegrate. I feel it when I go into London, that there's a growing sense of, I think lawlessness is putting it too strongly, but I was sexually assaulted on the Underground just before Christmas. That's the first time that had happened to me in decades. There's always cyclists on the pavement. The police just stand and watch them. There's this feeling of this antisocial, kind of hostility. And and then you try and drive home and there's potholes everywhere, and it's the bins in some places aren't being collected, and councils are imposing on you by saying, oh, you've got to take out. I mean, look at Camden Council is trying to tell people simultaneously you need a heat pump but you can't have air conditioning, and telling people in some cases for noise reasons. It's like, well, the machine doesn't make more noise when it's in cooling mode than when it's in heating mode, and it's basically the same machines. So there's this feeling that the state is now kind of working against us and the government's our enemy. You look at what they're trying to bring in now around control of media and free speech, and this database that the government's trying to bring in on everybody's data. It's just all very uncomfortable.
Yeah. No, I agree. Couldn't agree with you more. What are you hearing on the grapevine about old crazy Ed Miliband and whether he's likely to get the Chancellor's job when Burnham finally gets in?
Well, I mean, that's what people are saying, but other people are saying maybe not, because the unions are not happy with Miliband. They've taken against him quite strongly because of what he's doing with the North Sea. And it really shouldn't escape people's notice just how big the Conservative win in that by-election was. Everyone talks about Makerfield and what Burnham did, but the Conservatives won that seat. It was such a big majority there. Such a big share of the vote. And the issue there was really all about the North Sea, all about that local issue around jobs. And you might think, well, that's a very local thing, but actually look at what's happening to jobs nationwide. Look at what's happening to our industrial base. Labour has traditionally been the party that was supposed to be looking after blue collar workers, and it's completely betrayed that constituency. We're seeing huge deindustrialization. And this is because of energy costs. That's one of the main reasons that factories are closing. We're closing refineries, we're closing chemical plants, we're closing factories. The steel industry is on its knees, and this is because of energy costs being so high. And basically that comes back to Ed Miliband. So I'm a bit on the fence about whether he will be Chancellor. We'll just have to see. It will not be an improvement, I don't think. But who knows?
No, I don't think it could be an improvement. There isn't anyone with any talent whatsoever, it seems, in this Labour government. But there we are. Catherine, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Before you go, we've got a little poll going at the moment today. So if you don't mind, I'll ask you, what's your most vivid memory? Your first kiss, your wedding day, your first Christmas, or your first holiday? It could be none of the above. It could be something completely different.
I can't believe 12% of people can remember their first Christmas.
I know, that's weird, isn't it? Shows you can't believe statistics, basically. I don't remember my first Christmas.
So no, I definitely don't remember my first Christmas. I can't remember my first kiss, and I'm not sure I remember that. I do remember my wedding day. What was the other one?
The other one was your first holiday, I think.
No, I don't think I remember that. So out of that list, it would be my wedding day.
Wedding day, brilliant, excellent.
Yes.
Well, lovely.
So that's the one where I was an actual adult, And the other ones, well, I suppose I was an adult with my first kiss as well, but I was definitely a child for the other two.
No, definitely, absolutely right. Interesting. Well, great to see you, great to talk to you, and we must have you on more often. Thank you very much indeed, Catherine Porter there, talking much sense as she always does about the state of our national grid, but also the state of the national kind of cause as well, the country going down the gurgler, some people would think. Now, coming up, Piers Corbyn's going to be here as well. He's in the studio. Josh Rom is going to talk to us about Harry and what he does now, what he does next, how he pays the bill, for example, for the big lawsuit that he just lost this week to Associated Newspapers. First, though, should we get some news with Edward Hughes?
Hi there, I'm Edward Hughes with your news. The Farage by-election saga rolls on after his midweek resignation drama and donation row. Today's chatter is all about whether this people versus establishment gamble actually pays off or just turns into an expensive one-man show. The clock's ticking on that, Paul. Prince Harry's UK visit continues its awkward streak. Post-court loss fallout, security headaches, and zero palace sleepover keep making headlines as he does his Invictus and Charity Bits solo. Home, sweet, complicated home. We're still baking in the ongoing heatwave, peak temps today, with amber alerts and everyone pretending this is normal British summer. Starmer's World Cup bank holiday tease lingers in the background for morale. Classic Thursday, old dramas simmering, weather doing its worst, and the nation collectively sighing. Ice cream sales are the real winners. Later's Tigers.
Welcome back to the Mike Graham Show, 9:32. As I say, Piers Corbyn coming up in a minute. He's going to run in the Clacton by-election, believe it or not, and alongside Count Binface, and possibly someone from the Reclaim Party is what we've seen so far. So it won't be completely just a two-man race with Nigel Farage and Count Binface. Actually, I said I wasn't going to call him that. What's his name? Harvey? John Harvey. I'm going to call him John Harvey because I don't think he's very funny, even though he's supposedly a comedian. Used to work at the BBC, apparently. You know, la-di-da. Let's talk to Josh Rom, who's going to talk to us about Harry and the state of play, because poor old Harry's now got a massive, great legal bill to pay. Very good morning to you, Josh. Nice to see you. Welcome to the
Lovely to see you too, Mike.
Show.
Congratulations on all the success.
Yeah, well, listen, it's great. It's going really well. We're very happy about it. I was talking to Kinsey Schofield yesterday, and she was telling me that, you know, she doesn't now think Meghan will come to London because she doesn't like a loser, and he's a massive loser now, and she doesn't want to be seen on his arm after having lost this case. Not just lost it, but spectacularly lost every single bit of it, you know?
Yeah, and it really was every single thing. So over 400 pages of written summary judgment, over 96 instances brought up, 50 counts, and every single one, the judge denied that there was any unlawful techniques used to gather any sort of information. This was a resounding loss, and as I said, and also every single witness in this case, every single one, the Mail said they were either impressive, they were credible or believable, including the 3 royal journalists that were involved as well, that Prince Harry accused, Charlotte Griffiths, Katie Nicholl, and the Daily Mail's current royal editor, Rebecca English, as well. In terms of a loss, this was absolutely resounding. And the papers are now reporting that actually the Associated Newspapers, they're not just seeking to recoup 50 million, it's actually going to be closer to 60 to 65, maybe even 67 million pounds in legal costs. So it's absolutely resounding. When it comes to Meghan joining Harry, if she is going to join him, we might see her join him today because he's driving up to Birmingham for the Invictus Games Countdown, an event to mark 1 year to the next Invictus Games in 2027. It's been reported, I spoke to sources at the time, where if she was going to join him, she and the kids would join him outside of London due to, of course, the security concerns, Ravek not granting Harry or his family security. He wants to emphasise that London is not a safe place for him. I still think that a meeting, from speaking to sources behind the scenes as well, I still think that a meeting with King Charles, Meghan and the kids might take place. But if it does, it will be very much behind closed doors in Windsor. It could be a surprise meeting that we do not know about yet.
Yes, and interestingly, I was reading a piece in The Sun this morning saying that Harry and King Charles were less than half a mile apart yesterday in the capital, but they didn't see each other.
No, they didn't. And that's also partly due to the fact that King Charles is not going to alter his itinerary to see Prince Harry at any given time. And I mean, listen, could Prince Harry have gone to visited his father? Yes, absolutely. Should he have gone to visited his father? Yes, absolutely. Especially as because we know, or at least it's been widely reported, that actually for the past couple of months at the very least, Prince Harry and King Charles have been communicating via phone call behind the scenes as well. It's a very difficult situation now, given the I would say, the public humiliation surrounding Buckingham Palace and Harry's accommodation potentially at Buckingham Palace, which, as we know, did not go through at all.
No, I mean, they've only got the 280 rooms, haven't they? And they couldn't find one for him, which sort of pretty much tells you everything you need to know. Now, you keep referring to him as Prince Harry, which technically he's not really anymore, is he? He still has the Duke of Sussex title, but somebody said to me yesterday, you know, given his criticism of the judge and the way that he was very dismissive of what he called a whitewash and that they didn't get justice and his moaning and groaning, you know, they went on with, you know, he's meant to be part of the crown still, although he's, you know, not a working royal, although I think he claims he still is. You know, he shouldn't be criticising judges who are effectively the king's justices.
Yeah, absolutely. He absolutely shouldn't be doing that. And actually, I think now when you think of Buckingham Palace potentially citing the court case as a reason why Prince Harry couldn't stay at Buckingham Palace, at first, a lot of royal commentators, myself included, were actually like, well, hang on, this is a civil case. There's not going to be any constitutional repercussions. Now we see that there is constitutional repercussions because it's exactly as you said. And Prince Harry, as far as we know, can still deputise as a Councillor of State for King Charles. So no, this is not a good look for, I don't want to say the institution, but definitely for Prince Harry. He still is a prince. He still has that title. It's still his birthright. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles are still there as well. That was a gift given to them by Her Majesty the Queen. Their HRH titles, their HRH status is just currently inactive. Prince Harry, it is his birthright. He is still a prince. He will always be a prince unless he does something like Prince Andrew, where the prince title can be stripped from him. I know a lot of people argue the fact that actually the title of prince should be stripped from him. But if we look actually at Prince Andrew, compare it to Prince Andrew, Prince Harry, yes, it's not a good look for the monarchy having a little bit of a temper tantrum, a hissy fit after he lost a civil case, but it's nothing compared to what Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been accused of doing. So I think we have to look at it with a bit of perspective here, with a bit of let's be honest, can we really compare a little bit of a hissy fit, which will die down in time, compared to somebody that has alleged to have conducted himself not just in a manner unbecoming, as he said, but actually misconduct in public office.
Indeed. And the other big question, I suppose, before I let you go, is if he is hit with a bill for 60 odd million quid, has he got the money?
Well, that's a very good question. It's not going to be just him. We know the case was supported, or at least it's been widely reported that the case was supported by Hacked Off, and they have other people bankrolling them.
I suppose Elton John might be able to stump up a few quid.
Exactly. And then there's potential insurance and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. It's very clear that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are very much struggling in Hollywood. Meghan is going to have to sell a lot of jam in order to fit that legal bill. Bearing in mind the case is shared with 7 others, including Elton John, David Furnish, Liz Hurley, Sadie Frost. They've all got money as well, so it's not just going to be Harry. But Harry does have high overheads in Hollywood. He has to pay for armed security guards and this huge security operation in Montecito, California. We know that's not expensive. Plus the overheads on his $30 million mansion. It's been reported that that's how much that costs. So he has to pay a mortgage on that. He has extremely high overheads. Meghan and Harry aren't exactly making that much money anyway, as has been reported. The Spotify deal is down the window. The Netflix deal has been downgraded to a first look deal, not an exclusive deal. So the streamer is not going to be paying them anywhere near the money that they used to be earning. The As Ever business, it's not exactly going entirely to plan. So Prince Harry, I'm sure he has money saved up. I'm sure he has his millions. But this is an extremely high legal bill. The one good thing is for him is, well, at least it's not just me. At least I share the cost with other people. But it's also been reported that he agreed to bankroll the legal costs for Doreen Lawrence as well. Baroness Lawrence, I should say. So this is just a huge, humiliating blow for Harry, because he was supposed to be having this triumphant return to the UK, potential meeting with his father and the kids, the first since the Platinum Jubilee celebrations in 2022. He was meant to be this brilliant event for Invictus 1 year to go. The Invictus, of course, is a worthwhile charitable endeavor. Veterans is an incredible cause to be a part of. It was supposed to be this huge return, exciting, first time he's coming back. Oh, relations are thawing somewhat, relations are getting better somewhat. It's not the case. And now it's just been humiliation after humiliation after humiliation.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. And SMG just saying there, which is probably more bad news for him. And when you hear the word Harry now, you don't think of Harry from Montecito, you think of Harry Kane, which he may be well true about, So there we are. Anyway, Josh, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Hope to see you again soon. Josh Rom there talking to us about the future for Harry. or Harry Wales, as he was called. I don't like calling him Prince Harry because I don't think he's got the right to be called that anymore. But there we are. What can I say?
Harry Markle.
Harry Markle. Yeah, well, true. You could call him that if you want, Mr. Markle. Harry, what have you done with all the money, Harry? Anyway, listen, Piers Corbyn's here. Piers, very good.
How do you do? Good to see you.
Afternoon. Good morning, sure. I've
It's
been here so
morning, it's
long. I think it's
definitely morning.
afternoon. I haven't seen you for a while.
Indeed.
Now, I've been reading the piece this morning in the Telegraph in which it says, and I'm not going to call him, I'm going to call him John Harvey because I'm not going to give this bin-faced idiot any kind of credibility whatsoever because he thinks, as we've discovered, he's a former BBC character.
Yes.
He's done classics at Oxford, typical kind of, led by donkeys type character.
Well, they're all some media people are going for him. Well, they're going for the wrong bin.
Well,
I'm the right bin.
Indeed, Corbyn. Very good. I like it. So you're running in Clacton,
I am.
You? What's the process? Do you have? Because they don't mention you. They mention that maybe Reclaim might be putting a candidate up. Lawrence Fox's.
Well,
party.
they should mention us, and we've been getting our app around and. A speech I made in Parliament Square yesterday.
Right. And who are you? Are you representing a party or are you?
No, I'm an
you're
independent.
Okay. All right. So what do you have to physically do to kind of register?
The election, of course, hasn't actually been declared yet.
Right.
Assuming that all happens and
Yes.
that Farage isn't playing a double game with us and is actually going to stand
Well,
out.
the permission was granted yesterday, wasn't it, by Rachel Reeves?
So it's got to happen.
So she's given him some mad title that he has to have in order to have moved the writ or something.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay.
She's made him Duke of something or other. I can't remember what it is, but it's some old medieval sort of rule
Right. Well,
that they
I
have
don't know.
to do.
But he's playing a game to try and dodge something that's happening in Parliament, sleaze issues. But I don't think it'll work. I mean, I think that the parliamentary issue is going to carry on, and they'll decide if he's done right or wrong.
Yeah,
And,
I mean,
whatever people of Clacton say, but it's all a game, and so I'm standing to have a proper representation and accountability.
Right.
And there's a number of issues that we think are key.
Yeah. So tell us what the issues are.
Well, first of all, wars. Any leader of the country now should be ending these wars, not funding them. Britain's complicit in genocide. That is absolutely wrong. So what's he saying about that? Well, we know he supports that. And what about Andy Burnham? What's he saying about that? Because we will raise things about what Burnham's doing in the election.
But this is the problem, isn't it? Because you've now got a by-election where Labour aren't represented, the Tories are not represented, the Lib Dems are not represented, Restore Britain is not represented.
Why are they not been? They're scared.
I think they're making a mistake, actually, because people are saying, it's going to make the whole thing a farce, it's going to make it look ridiculous. Actually, I think they're making themselves look ridiculous.
I agree.
Aren't they?
Them talking about bin face all the time, of course, is to make it look ridiculous. But you see, the people of Clacton, they're serious people. They've got to have proper representation. They don't want bin face in there. That would be absurd.
No, it would be absurd.
So obviously, Farage and others are hoping that people won't vote for bin face and they'll vote for him as the what's left. But I think that's wrong.
Well, they probably will, won't they? I mean,
I don't know.
I think 46% of the vote last time.
Well, indeed, but I would say it's very flexible. Like, first of all, the war issue. Secondly, climate. We've got to end the climate con, end net zero, and save the economy because it's costing so much. Now, Nigel Farage
he would
himself,
agree with you on that, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Well, he would say so, maybe, but when it came to the debate in Parliament on the one of those bills, the Climate and Nature Bill, he didn't even turn up.
Yeah.
So, where's he stand? Third thing is about vaccine. Vaccine, we know now, is damaging and killing people, like we said all along. We should axe the vax. What's he say about that? The last thing, of course, is...
When you say axe the vax, well, you want to axe all vaccines?
I would, actually, yes.
All of them?
All of them, yes.
So you wouldn't have any vaccines?
No.
No, then it's a bit dangerous.
But the information is, and a lot of this comes from JFK Jr. in America, that all vaccines are actually harmful. Now, there might be some
I don't think he says that. I think says that some are.
Okay, well,
or
what we're really talking about is a COVID-type vax anyway. Yeah,
right.
Fair enough. The other thing that's very important is the DigiID, where our freedoms have been taken away. The excuse to save children from porn when parents should be sorting that out is used to ID all of us and control us. And there's massive spending on these data centres.
Yeah.
And they're using up huge power, huge
Nigel
money,
Farage would
and
probably
water.
agree with you on that as well, wouldn't he?
Well, he may do or may not, but what
he certainly would not go for what this government is planning to do, which would affect people like us in terms of this independent show, which is to try and push an algorithm which would send people towards the BBC and Sky and
Indeed,
ITV.
that's completely
and what
wrong.
They call
I hope he
trusted-
would. There may be some things I can agree with Farage on, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think his time has come to go, if you like.
Well, I don't know that anybody's going to beat him in Clacton. I suppose the question people from Clacton would ask you is how well do you know Clacton?
I do know people in the area and in Essex, actually, yes.
Have you been to Clacton?
Probably. I've been to a lot of places.
It's not a great endorsement
no,
for your,
it isn't, no,
for your
fair
campaign.
Enough, but I will be going
Piers
there
Corbyn, I've
in the
probably
next
been
few
to Clacton.
days. Well, fair enough. I'm not going to make up a story if I'm not sure I have.
No, I wouldn't want you to do that.
But
I mean, obviously there will be people who might expect you
I've been to Colchester, for example.
Colchester?
Yeah, which is very nearby.
Well, that's near
in Chelmsford.
Clacton.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so Piers Corbyn, I've been near Clacton. Maybe it's a better...
Okay.
Clacton. How about Eric Clapton?
What about Binface and the others? They'd probably never been there at all. Or even
no.
know Essex, you know.
No, I mean, I'm sure, as I'm now going to continue to call him, John Harvey has never been anywhere near Essex because it's probably
not,
but
anyway,
not in his
where
wheelhouse, as they would say.
I mean, does Farage actually live in Clacton anyway? I don't think so.
Well, he doesn't necessarily live in Clacton, but he's certainly got an office in Clacton.
Sure, well, fair enough,
and he
as
certainly
he should have.
is the representative of Clacton. He does have a house in Essex, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know. What about the Reclaim Party? What can you tell me about them? Do you know anything about them?
Yes, I do. I don't know why they're actually standing though, because a lot of what they say seems to be very, very close to Farage. So it doesn't make much sense. Maybe we could talk to them, Lawrence Fox and others, and perhaps they'd stand down and support me.
Is he somebody that you know?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
he's been very good denouncing pronoun nonsense, for example.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. Is that going to be? Have you got a manifesto? Would you have produced one?
We will.
Or is that it there?
Yeah. No, this is some notes on anything
Just some
that
notes
you
on
might
a piece
ask
of
me.
paper. And so, I mean, you're representing now yourself. You've been associated in the past with different kind of parties and organisations.
Yes, I'm technically a member of your party, my brother's party.
Okay.
But maybe I have to
I didn't know
not
that was
be in
still
that
going.
in order to stand. Oh, well, it is.
Who's in charge of it now?
My brother is.
Is he?
Yes.
What about Zara Sultana? What happened to her?
Well, they had some disagreements
Yes.
and she caused a lot of disruption, I would
So is
say.
she still in it?
I believe so. Yeah.
Right. Because I think she thinks she's the leader, isn't she?
Well, no, I don't know what she thinks.
I think what happened was that they had some difficulties in announcing who the leader was.
Because there was going to be a joint leadership or
She
something.
put out a statement that said she was the leader, or they were going to be joint leaders, and then your brother said, don't think that's right.
No.
And then she asked people to send money to a particular place which hadn't been set up properly and all of
very
that.
all dodgy stuff. But I think technically when you go through the electoral commission process, there has to be one leader, not two leaders. And
Wouldn't you be
the one
better
on
off-
the paper was my brother.
Right. Wouldn't you be better off standing as your party candidate?
Well, they would have to agree that, and currently they're not standing candidates anywhere, but they are supporting independents in different places.
Oh, okay.
So maybe this will happen, but that hasn't yet
So
been
will they
discussed
support
yet.
you, do you think?
We'll have to, well, possibly, but we have to wait until there's a formal process.
So when are you planning to visit Clacton anytime soon?
Very soon, yeah.
Yeah. And can you tell us when?
I will tell you when we are going.
And have you got a little
Probably
team
not
around
this-
you?
probably
Have
not.
you got a little team around you of people who can campaign on your behalf?
Yes. Probably not this weekend, but certainly next week or next weekend.
Okay.
I mean, the weekend after this.
Right.
One, yeah.
And aside from when you run for office in Clacton, what else are you up to?
Well, I'm still doing a lot of long-range forecasting and protesting against all these attacks on our rights. Those 4 points, of course, are the key things about attacks on our rights. But the weather, we're very pleased.
How do you like the weather? It's nice, isn't it?
I know.
It's hot.
Well, we predicted this ages ago,
Right.
months ago. And at the same time, the government is funding lots of nonsense for charlatans who claim they're going to dim the sun and such mad things.
Oh, really?
Well, yes.
I haven't heard about that.
Pardon?
They're going to dim the sun.
Well, that's what they're saying.
I
yes,
thought that was
yes.
something you got in a Chinese restaurant.
Well, indeed, you're very
Dim
good.
the sun.
Well put. But they've got a little group in the British Library called the Advanced Research and Invention Agency, which receive millions of pounds to do research into dimming the sun.
Right.
Now,
how are they going to do that then?
Well, the only way is dust up there, but we've pointed out, and I brought along a funny little graph here, but I don't expect you can see that anywhere.
Yeah, this is good.
Oh, can you? Can?
Yeah, you can hold it up there.
And to the right, this
Hold it to that camera there.
That camera there?
Yeah, there you go.
That's nice.
Dimming the sun.
This one here, that's it.
Okay, I'm
There you go.
watching it in there. Yeah.
Wow, that looks pretty in depth. That.
Well, it's just some calculations which show that.
It's like Back to the Future, this, isn't it?
Well, okay, but you see, if you want to have enough dust to cool the world by say 1 degree, you'd have to produce as much as came from the Krakatoa volcano. Well, to put that in the air would need all the aeroplanes in the world with a plane full of dust. How they make the dust, I don't know. For 3 years, dropping it every day.
Right.
So there's no way this can be done by humans, right? It's just completely no way.
It doesn't sound like a good
So
idea to me.
They're charlatans collecting money on the back of the climate con.
Yeah.
And you see, the world, it's not actually warming. It's been warm here,
No, I
but
don't
it's
disagree with you
it's
on that.
been cold in Russia.
Well, you and I used to have quite a lot of discussions
course.
around this, and I
Yeah.
don't disagree with you about that. I
Well,
think
you
that's-
can disagree or not if you like, but we are heading towards more variations in the jet stream, which gives us these extremes and cold in Russia and so forth.
Yeah, yeah.
And it will be overall colder by the time we reach 2030.
Yeah. Well, I reckon it could be a bit colder than it is at the moment.
It would be nice
It's a
here.
bit too hot for me to sleep, I'm afraid.
Probably a bit too cold in Moscow.
Well,
but
listen,
there
we'll keep
we
in
are.
touch with this because we'd like to see how the
Absolutely.
old campaign goes.
Well, come
down in
along and
Clacton.
join us.
Well, I
Thank
may
you
well
very
do.
much. Or-
We might
or
actually
watch
do
us.
that. Maybe we can do a show from
Yeah.
Clacton or something. We could think about
That's
that.
a great idea, yeah.
We could think about that.
I'll be going down there soon. And
All right.
I'm starting to win, not just make a game. You understand that?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it is doable because Nigel Farage's actual support is very flexible and shifting.
Yes. Well, I
he's
mean,
become the dustbin of another bin.
I mean, I
the
wish you well.
dustbin of
I
opposition.
don't think you're going to win, but there we are. We invite all comers to this show, of course. So
course.
anyone whoever else is running in Clacton, you want to pop in, by all means do so. Piers, nice to see you. Thank you very much
Thank you.
indeed. We'll see you again soon, I'm sure. Shall we do a little bit of a meltdown? Have you sorted anything out about the Pooch's Pooch, perhaps?
Yeah, we've got Pooch's Pooch.
Well, we can. Well, do you want to do a bit of Pooch's Pooch first?
Yes.
And then I'll
5
do.
minutes left.
And then I'll do a meltdown.
Look
Hey?
at this mess. You did this, didn't you?
Yeah, I presume you haven't got tally money.
Rex! What did you do? Oh my god! Huh? Oh my god! Max, what did you do? Look at this mess! What? Happy birthday.
That dog's going to get hurt by
I
the
know.
cat because they got very sharp claws.
I love
It's
cats.
got to be AI, got to be.
Yeah, that must be AI.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that dog.
Oh, they're all a bit fake, aren't they, though?
Yeah, we got to watch that because they should be real.
Yeah, they should be real. Back to it.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if that was AI. I think it might have been. Shall we do a bit of this?
Yeah.
Have a bit. Yeah, so I've been thinking about doing this one for a while, right? And it's about technology, and it's not just about the technology that drives you mad every day. I woke up this morning, couldn't do anything with my phone because it was full, apparently. And you get to a point where you have to start deleting things before you can get anything else added on. And it starts to drive you a bit insane. And then, of course, you've got the password problem, where if you haven't remembered what the password is and you haven't written it down somewhere and you haven't put it on some kind of chain, and you can't get back into whatever it is that you want to get back into. And then, of course, you've got all the digital ID nonsense, where if you try and get into some kind of government website and you can't remember how to do it, and you haven't got your passport with you, and you haven't got your driving license with you, and you haven't got anything else that you need, you can't do anything. And you get stuck in this kind of, desert of lack of technology, lack of knowledge, lack of ability, and you just can't do anything. You know, there are things that I haven't seen for such a long time because I can't get into them. You know, I had to go and change my something to my TFL pass the other day, right? And it was asking me questions I couldn't answer. It was asking me to upload pictures I didn't have. It was asking me to show them something that I couldn't find. And you just go, well, this is insane, isn't it? Can you not just walk up to somebody and tell them you want something done? You can't even go and find a ticket office anymore on the tube because there isn't one, right? There's a ticket machine. And there's a person there standing there telling you how to use the ticket machine. But if you can't use it because you don't have money or you don't have a credit card, it's ridiculous. And we are becoming enslaved by this system. And Piers Corbyn will probably agree with me, sitting next to me,
I do agree with you.
that we have got to do something about it. You
We
know,
want human existence.
there was a
not
time when
digi
you could
existence.
buy things with cash. It's hardly now likely that you can do that almost anywhere, that you can't buy things with cash. You can still take cash out of a machine, but you can't then spend it anywhere because most people won't take any cash, which is kind of mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're all trapped in this kind of ridiculous
Cheap
world
cash.
where you have to have a password for this, another password for that, facial recognition. In fact, we've got some facial recognition clip today, haven't we, from Shabana Mahmood. Should we play that?
Could you just explain why it's all taking so long? The consultation on this closed 5 months ago, and yet you're still unable to tell us what's actually going to happen. And just as an addition to that, given that you believe it is so important to have this new legislative underpinning of the use of LFR, why have you allowed so many different forms of extension, for example, from mobile LFR equipment to fixed LFR equipment, without having a proper legal underpinning?
Well, I mean, I do think there is a legal underpinning, and I think that the courts have found that the use of LFR, as it's been used by police
Sorry, Home
forces, is
Secretary,
legal.
you yourself have said there needs to be a proper legal underpinning.
For reasons of clarity and consistency of practice across 43 forces.
Yes, so that's from Big Brother Watch, who are obviously very concerned. And so Shabana Mahmood says, I do think there's a legal underpinning. Well, that's all right then, isn't it? Because, of course, what you're going to find is that people are going to be walking down the street with a mask on, and then they won't be recognised by the facial recognition cameras, will they? Or somebody might be wearing a burqa, and they won't be recognised by facial recognition either. But you will be, because you're not wearing a mask or a burqa, presumably. And so you'll be picked up by the police who might mistake you for somebody else. But don't worry, there's a legal underpinning. It'll be fine. You won't get into trouble. And if they arrest you by mistake, they'll apologise and you can just get on with the rest of your life, can't you? And there's no way they're going to keep any of the details that you've given them and do anything with them which would be unusual or dangerous. There wouldn't be anything like that. No, of course not. Don't be silly. Right now, if you're on the YouTube chat, you should be ready to go and you should find a little link there and all you got to do is press it and it will take you straight there. And I'll be there as well, joining Kelvin for the first 10 minutes of his show to keep him up to date and to tell him what we've been up to here on this show. And of course, we'll be back at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, sharp, so you don't want to miss that. So off you go. Head over to UK Online Live now, or UK Live Online even, and I'll see you there.
Yeah. Hi there. Just coming into work at UK Live, exciting new project. If just round the corner here, you'll see that's the studio where Mike Graham has his hugely successful breakfast show, the #1 breakfast show actually online right now. Extraordinary, considering it was only a matter of, I don't know, a couple of months ago that it was launched. And then you can come into this studio here where I do my show, which has just taken off and is beginning to grow almost every day. So I've got plenty of interesting stuff coming up. Obviously, Farage still dominates it politically. I'm extremely upset about this Tim's report about PIP, in which he says things aren't going right. So he spent 9 months looking at this, and what has he decided? I'll tell you later. He doesn't say what the solution is. There is no solution to PIP. And it's no good everybody saying they need the PIP because they have to have wheelchair and all the mobility and everything. What about, how do you explain that in terms of anxiety, depression and everything else going through the roof at your cost? We can't afford it. It's a racket. Watch me at 10.
Hi there, I'm Edward Hughes with your news. The Farage by-election saga rolls on after his midweek resignation drama and donation, row. Today's chatter is all about whether this people versus establishment gamble actually pays off or just turns into an expensive one-man show. The clock's ticking on that, Paul. Prince Harry's UK visit continues its awkward streak. Post-court loss fallout, security headaches, and Zero Palace sleepover keep making headlines as he does his Invictus and Charity Bits solo. Home, sweet, complicated home. We're still baking in the ongoing heatwave, peak temps today, with amber alerts and everyone pretending this is normal British summer. Starmer's World Cup bank holiday tease lingers in the background for morale. Classic Thursday, old dramas simmering, weather doing its worst, and the nation collectively sighing. Ice cream sales are the real winners. Laters, tigers.